Chapter 773 Peerless School 2. Senior Brother? Who are those two people? Why are Warden Xiong and the other wardens following beside them? And why do they look like they are pleasing them? A disciple who just entered the valley not long ago looked in confusion at the two young men who were being escorted by a group of people. Lower your voice. His senior brother hurriedly warned him and said softly, "Those two people are from the Peerless School." Peerless School? The rumored Peerless School, where all the top powerful figures are gathered in? That disciple's face was filled with astonishment. Since you know it, you must be more careful. Not mentioning wardens, even our Falling Sky Valley elders have to show utmost deference to the Peerless School disciples. The disciple shuddered with fear. He originally thought that he had entered a super force after he entered Falling Sky Valley. But unexpectedly, Falling Sky Valley had to be this cautious before the Peerless School. As the two of them were discussing softly, a Peerless School disciple suddenly frowned. His sharp gaze passed through the crowd and swept towards the two disciples who were mumbling softly. "Who is commenting on my Peerless School?" A Peerless School disciple shouted coldly. The Falling Sky Valley wardens broke out in cold sweat immediately. The people around those two Falling Sky Valley disciples dispersed like birds instantly, leaving those two horrified disciples at the same spot. This is how Falling Sky Valley teaches its disciples. The older-looking Peerless School disciple looked coldly at the wardens beside him. Xiong Feng and the rest were dripping with cold sweat. They looked at the two dumbstruck Falling Sky Valley disciples and berated immediately. "How insolent! Who gave you the nerves to comment on the Peerless School? Get lost and go receive your punishments." The two disciples trembled and retreated silently. However, wait. A Peerless School disciple suddenly spoke. The warden's face stiffened, unclear of the other party's intention. Those two disciples were pale from the shock, and they remained rooted to the ground, not daring to move. The Peerless School disciple looked at those two disciples. "Anyone who dares to casually comment about my Peerless School will naturally have to be punished." Yes. This is a must. We will let them go to the disciplinary hall to be punished." Xiong Feng agreed with them. "Don't trouble." The Peerless School disciple nodded, and a faint murderous air emerged in his eyes. In the next second, he suddenly raised his hand, and a golden ray of light immediately shot out from his palm. In just an instant, that golden light was shot towards one of the two Falling Sky Valley disciples, and pierced through the person's glabella once the golden light touched him. A streak of blood spurted out from that disciple's glabella. Without a wail, that disciple collapsed on the ground with a thud, and the horror on his face was still frozen even when he died. Seeing his own senior brother dying in front of him, that disciple who just entered the valley fell to the ground in shock. Until this moment, he still had not realized what wrong had they done exactly, and why his life was taken. A faint smell of blood spread in the air at that moment. The Falling Sky Valley disciples watched that instant death in disbelief. They heard the discussion of those two disciples as well. However, those two disciples only said a few things secretly, and there was no criticism about the Peerless School at all. But this was enough for them to lose their lives. Chapter 774 Peerless School 3. The Falling Sky Valley wardens never thought that the Peerless School disciples would be so ruthless and were stunned. "Mercy! I'm wrong. I will not dare to do it again. Please spare my life." Frightened out of his wits, the disciple knelt on the ground and kowtowed repeatedly as he begged for mercy. The other Falling Sky Valley disciples were extremely despondent when they witnessed the sight. However, the Peerless School disciple did not take pity on the Falling Sky Valley disciple. He lifted his hand slightly, and a ray of golden light was shot out from his palm once again, killing that imploring disciple instantly. From the start to the end, the Falling Sky Valley wardens from aside could not utter any pleas for leniency. The Falling Sky Valley disciples were dead silent, and they trembled at the sight of the two dead bodies on the ground. At that instant, Perfected Xianshan and a few other elders walked over together. Xian Yuanlai followed behind the Full Moon Peak's Peak Master. When the Falling Sky Valley disciples saw them, hope rose in their hearts. "We were unaware of your arrival. Excuse us for not going out to meet you earlier." Perfected Xianshan greeted. The two peerless school disciples swept a look over perfunctorily. Xianyuan Lai, who was standing behind the full moon peak master, glanced across the surrounding and felt that the atmosphere was strange. It was then he noticed the corpses of two falling Sky Valley disciples not far away. This two disciples offended the peerless school envoys just now and was punished by the envoys. A warden explained. Perfected Zuanshan's eyes dimmed upon hearing it. Xianyuan Lai frowned slightly, and this reaction caused a trace of hope to arise in the falling Sky Valley disciples' hearts. Xianyuan Lai was the #1 talent of falling Sky Valley, and he would probably be infuriated when the peerless school disciples killed falling Sky Valley disciples so casually on falling Sky Valley's turf. However, Xianyuan Lai suddenly turned around and bowed to those two peerless school disciples with cupped fists. We have troubled you. It truly is our negligence for falling Sky Valley to have such insolent disciples. Please don't take offense, envoys. Xianyuan Lai's words stunned many disciples. Since it's negligence, there better not be such an incident ever again, lest our hands are dirted, a peerless school disciple said. Rest assured, envoys, there will never be such a case again in the future. Xianyuan Lai agreed. The peerless school disciples nodded slightly before looking straight at falling Sky Valley's perfected Xianshan. Perfected Xianshan, are falling Sky Valley's tribute for this year prepared? Perfected Xianshan repressed his emotions and replied. They have been prepared long ago. Then, he exchanged a look with an elder beside him, who directly handed the list of tributes to the peerless school disciples. The peerless school demanded a huge quantity of tributes. Apart from large amounts of superior-grade spirit stones, they even required hundreds of Dharma treasures. It could be said that at least half of the entire Falling Sky Valley's earnings landed in the pockets of the peerless school. The peerless school disciples received the list of tributes, and sneers hung on their lips after taking a glance. The quantity doesn't seem to be right, doesn't it? Perfected Xianshan was slightly dumbfounded. Everything on the list is prepared according to the rules that the peerless school had set in the previous years. Chapter 775 Giving You Face 1. This year is different from the previous years. The peerless school disciple smiled and lifted his chin. Have you forgotten, Perfected Xianshan? Your old valley master did not give us any tributes last year. Since 1 year of tributes is missing, you all naturally have to make up for it this year. The peerless school disciple said, and threw that list on a falling Sky Valley elder's face. Perfected Xianshan, you're still using this list to fool us. What a joke. Perfected Zuanshan's expression darkened, and even the peak masters behind him never thought that the peerless school would have such high demands. The tributes that they squeezed out to offer to the peerless school every year were already their limit. It was so that they even had to dock the welfare of their own valley's disciples in order to fill the vacancy. Yet the peerless school still wanted them to double the number of tributes now. I'm afraid, there are some difficulties. We have always prepared according to the original rules, an elder said hesitantly. The peerless school snickered coldly. The tributes that we set for Falling Sky Valley back then were already very little, but your old valley master did not know how to be grateful. Could it be that you all don't know what gratitude is? There was a hint of a threat in the peerless school disciples' words. The Falling Sky Valley elders and peak masters had ugly expressions. Perfected Xianshan frowned slightly. After hesitating for a moment, he finally said, It is our negligence. Please rest in the valley for a while, envoys. We will prepare them now. Sure. We will just take a spin in the valley. Then, the peerless school disciple lifted his hand and pointed at Xianyuan Lai. Let him bring us around. Delight arose in Xianyuan Lai upon being appointed by the peerless school disciple. Perfected Xianshan, the elders, and the peak masters could only return to the hall to discuss how to gather the additional tributes. The scene fell into the eyes of the Falling Sky Valley disciples, who felt sorrowful. The peerless school was so mighty that even their valley master and peak masters could only concede to them. This way, please. Xianyuan Lai was all smiles, completely unlike his usual arrogance. Yi Qingtang and Yin Qinglua were walking to Falling Sky Valley Square, and suddenly saw Xianyuan Lai and two young men walking towards them. Furthermore, Xian Yuanlai had a polite and solicitous expression on his face. Who are those two people? Yi Qingtang said. There were not many who could make the conceited Xian Yuanlai be so polite. Yin Qingluo looked over and was alarmed. She immediately spoke with a hushed voice. Junior brother Yi, those two are envoys from the Peerless School. However, the moment Yin Qingluo spoke, the emotionless Peerless School disciples beside Xian Yuanlai suddenly looked at them. Yin Qingluo spoke extremely softly to Yi Qingtang earlier on, but the skills of these two Peerless School disciples were pretty good, and that slight sound traveled into their ears word for word. Their expressions darkened immediately. Xian Yuanlai sensed the gaze of the two people, and immediately followed their gaze, which caused Xian Yuanlai to snicker in his heart. He had not taken time to find trouble for Yi Qingtang, but she sent herself knocking on the door instead today. Then, Xian Yuanlai immediately put on a straight face and reproached coldly. How brazen! Who allowed you two to criticize the Peerless School? Chapter 776, Giving You Face too. Then, Xian Yuanlai immediately put on a straight face and reproached coldly. How brazen! Who allowed you two to criticize the Peerless School? Xian Yuanlai shouted, drawing the attention of Yi Qingtang and Yin Qingluo. It was then that Yin Qingluo realized those two Peerless School disciples were looking at her, and Yi Qingtang coldly. An inauspicious premonition struck Yin Qingluo's mind suddenly. Yi Qingtang looked at Xian Yuanlai coldly, before glancing at the two Peerless School disciples. One of the Peerless School disciples lifted his chin slightly, and pointed at Yin Qingluo and Yi Qingtang. Come here. Yin Qingluo had no choice but to brace herself and head over with Yi Qingtang. That Peerless School disciple subsequently glanced at Yi Qingtang and Yin Qingluo. His eyes landed on Yi Qingtang, and he said, You kneel down. Xian Yuanlai obviously laughed in his heart when he saw the Peerless School disciples' reaction. However, those Falling Sky Valley disciples who had not dispersed from the square felt a shudder when they saw the sight. Those two Falling Sky Valley disciples merely whispered a few sentences, and were mercilessly killed by the Peerless School people. Now, Yi Qingtang was noticed to be making comments about the Peerless School by the Peerless School people again. Most likely, the disciples shook their heads secretly. Yin Qingluo was all the more nervous with worry. Only Yi Qingtang's expression was the same as before as she looked at that Peerless School disciple indifferently. In the next second, Yi Qingtang suddenly lifted her leg and kicked the knees of that Peerless School disciple. Sharp pain took over him in an instant. Defenseless, the Peerless School disciple fell on his knees with a thud before Yi Qingtang. There was dead silence in the surroundings. Everyone stared at the scene before their eyes in bewilderment. Even Xian Yuanlai was utterly stunned as well. No one had expected that Yi Qingtang actually dared to attack a Peerless School disciple. What are you? How dare you order me to kneel? Yi Qingtang said coldly, as she looked at the Peerless School disciple. The other Peerless School disciple was taken aback. Seeing that his senior brother was treated this way by the Falling Sky Valley disciple before him, a gleam flashed across his eyes. He unsheathed his sword immediately and aimed towards Yi Qingtang. You have a death wish. Yi Qingtang took a few steps back and dodged the sharp sword easily. Turning her palm, she locked that disciple's wrist and kicked that person's abdomen. A loud thud rang. That Peerless School disciple was sent flying several meters away by Yi Qingtang's kick. After returning to his senses, the other Peerless School disciple stood up immediately and lunged at Yi Qingtang. The scene completely dumbfounded everyone at the square. Yi Qingtang actually dared to hit the Peerless School disciples? Was she tired of living? Yi Qingtang looked at the Peerless School disciple who charged towards her indifferently. She drew out the demonic blood sword and used it to hit the sword in that disciple's hand away, before sending him a flying kick, which caused him to be flung out. Everything happened too abruptly that even Yin Qingluo had not taken it in. When she saw that the two Peerless School disciples were sent flying away from Yi Qingtang's kick, she finally returned to her senses and broke out in a cold sweat immediately. Is junior brother Yi insane? Those two are disciples of the Peerless School. Chapter 777 Giving You Face 3. The two peerless school disciples never thought that there would actually be such a reckless disciple in Falling Sky Valley. As they realized that they took the enemy lightly, a murderous expression filled their faces. Then, the two of them lifted their swords and charged forward. A bright and intense light enveloped the two of them, as they forcefully slashed their swords down at where Yi Qingtang was standing. Two swords that were each several meters long directly slew Yi Qingtang's thin frame. However, just as the sword auras were about to land, a transparent air hood enshrouded Yi Qingtang, and the sword auras crashed directly on it. With a loud boom, clouds of dust swirled in the surroundings while Yi Qingtang was unscathed. In the next second, a cold gleam flashed across Yi Qingtang's eyes. Break! The air hood around her exploded suddenly, and a powerful burst of air charged towards the two peerless school disciples. Under the sweeping wave of air, the two peerless school disciples were directly propelled away. Everyone at the square was dumbfounded. It goes without saying how mighty the peerless school was. Even the skills of a random ordinary disciple was above those of Falling Sky Valley's #1 talent, Xianyuan Lai. However, all by herself, Yi Qingtang actually beat those two peerless school disciples up to the point where they could no longer retaliate. For a moment, everyone was muddled. You two are merely ordinary disciples of the peerless school. How dare you be so arrogant in front of me? If your peerless school's elder was here, perhaps I'd give him some face. Yi Qingtang looked at those dust-covered peerless school disciples coldly, as though she was enfolded by a layer of austerity. The two peerless school disciples steadied themselves in a fluster. In the short moment when they exchanged blows earlier on, they sensed that the other party's skills were above theirs. What Yi Qingtang said, however, caused the two of them to halt their actions. It was simply impossible for Falling Sky Valley to nurture such a powerful disciple. Moreover, this person clearly knew their identities, but still dared to attack them. At that instant, a trace of hesitation emerged on the faces of the two peerless school people. They originally thought that the youth before them was merely a Falling Sky Valley disciple. Yet now, this person still dared to attack them. Unless this person was an idiot, how would he dare to offend the peerless school? If he was really an idiot, why would his skills be so powerful? Could this fellow be from the hidden clan? The peerless school disciple said hesitantly. In the entire mainland, the peerless school was already the top force, and its disciples were the most outstanding. However, between the various forces, there were many ancient family clans hidden from the world. Most of those hidden clans had vanished from the world's eyes, and only occasionally appeared as rumored. The strong heritage of the hidden clan was simply unfathomable. Even the current #1 family clan in Nine Nights Dynasty, Ouyang family clan, was inadequate to be associated with the rumored hidden clan. Who exactly are you? The peerless school disciple asked coldly. Yi Qingtang said coldly. In the sea of clouds at Mount Qin, perhaps you all will know my identity. When Yi Qingtang said that, the two peerless school disciples' expression stiffened. As rumored, the last place the hidden clan returned to and lived in seclusion was in the sea of clouds at Mount Qin. This fellow, could he really be a disciple of those hidden clans? Chapter 778, Putting on a Complete Show. 1. Thinking of Yi Qingtang's skills, the two disciples deliberated. The rumored hidden clan was ancient and mysterious, and even a force like the peerless school could not compare to them. If he was really from the hidden clan, the two ordinary peerless school disciples were truly not influential enough to offend him. Then, the two of them exchanged a look and put on an arrogant front. We will let you off today, fellow. The two peerless school disciples left directly after throwing that sentence. As Yi Qingtang watched them leave, an undetectable smile passed her eyes. Without thinking, she also knew what those two peerless school disciples were deliberating about. Hidden clans? God knows where those hidden clans were living in seclusion at now. However, Yi Qingtang could take advantage of this and put on an act. Xianyuan Lai stared blankly at the back view of the two peerless school disciples. He did not know about the legend of the hidden clans, and thus could not understand why those two disciples would suddenly stop and leave. Yi Chun, how bold of you! How dare you offend the peerless school? A trace of viciousness flashed across Xianyuan Lai's eyes as he turned around and headed to the main hall of Falling Sky Valley. Junior brother Yi, what do we do now? Yin Qinglue walked to Yi Qingtang's side in a hurry. Although it was a good thing that those two peerless school disciples suddenly left, Yi Qingtang did offend them, and this was anything but reassuring. Yi Qingtang said, different situations call for different actions. In her previous life, the peerless school was extremely rude to Falling Sky Valley. It collected Falling Sky Valley's tributes and said it would protect Falling Sky Valley's safety. But when Falling Sky Valley encountered a calamity, the peerless school did not even provide any help. If not for the fact that Yi Qingtang's current skills could not win against the peerless school, she would not need to make use of the hidden clan's name to scare them, and would have torn the entire peerless school down. After experiencing the peerless school's arrogance, and witnessing Yi Qingtang helping them to vent their anger, the other Falling Sky Valley disciples were truly delighted. However, before the disciples could gather around Yi Qingtang and talk to her, a warden rushed over and looked at Yi Qingtang with a stern expression. Yi Chen, the Valley Master ordered you to head to the main hall immediately. In the main hall, Perfected Xianxin was solemn. The peak masters and elders in the main hall, similarly, had dark expressions. Xianyuan Lai was standing beside the full moon peak master presently, after notifying everyone of Yi Qingtang's strife with the peerless school envoys. Offending the peerless school was absolutely not what the Falling Sky Valley wanted to see. In just a while, Yi Qingtang and Yin Qinglue entered the main hall with the warden from before. Disciple greets master. Yi Qingtang greeted with a bow. Perfected Xianxin looked at the disciple before him with a slight frown and a heavy head. Before waiting for Perfected Xianxin to speak, the full moon peak master from a side shouted coldly, Yi Chen, you committed a heinous crime. Kneel down now. Yi Qingtang looked up with a flat expression. I did not do anything wrong. Why do I need to kneel? You're still reluctant to admit your mistakes? The full moon peak master narrowed his eyes and looked at Yi Qingtang coldly. You entered the valley for less than half a month, but you have already caused troubles in the valley continuously. Now you even dare to be disrespectful to the peerless school envoys? You did not just do something wrong. You clearly committed a crime worthy of death. Chapter 779, Putting on a Complete Show, 2. Yin Qinglue, since you were at the scene just now, tell me what happened exactly, Perfected Xianxin said in a low voice. He did not fully believe Xianyuan Lai's words. Yin Qinglue could only recount the incident in full details. Perfected Zuanshan's brows were slightly furrowed. He never thought that what Xianyuan Lai said was actually true. And what surprised him more was that Yi Qingtang actually forced those two peerless school disciples to retreat just by herself. Yi Chen, what do you still have to say now? Kneel down now. The full moon peak master shouted coldly. However, Yi Qingtang remained still and looked at the full moon peak master coldly. The peerless school is unrelated to me in any way. Why must I kneel? Since they were disrespectful first, what wrong do I have? You're still twisting logic and making fallacious arguments at this critical moment? The peerless school is Falling Sky Valley's distinguished guest, and the entire valley must be hospitable to them. But you offended the peerless school envoys. Are you in the right? The full moon peak master bellowed coldly. Yi Qingtang said, the peerless school is your guest, not mine. They're just two ordinary disciples from the peerless school. How are they distinguished guests? You. The full moon peak master's danger-filled eyes were narrowed into slits, and he immediately shouted, Men, capture Yi Chen. Then, a few disciples in the main hall walked forward and wanted to seize Yi Qingtang down. Yi Qingtang swept a glance at them and said coldly, I came to Falling Sky Valley only for my master. You all wish to capture me? What rights do you all have? Then, a strong overbearing force was emitted around Yi Qingtang, immediately draining all color from those disciples who closed in on her. The peerless school people don't even dare to touch me, and you all want to try? Yi Qingtang looked at the full moon peak master indifferently. The full moon peak master was slightly stunned. Never would he have thought that this new, plain-looking disciple would actually have such skills. The overbearing force Yi Qingtang exerted was one that his grandson, Xianyuan Lai, could not even compare to. The peerless school did not dare to touch him? Yi Qingtang's words shocked everyone in the hall. It was then that the full moon peak master realized that under normal circumstances, although those two peerless school disciples were in the disadvantageous situation, they should not have retreated suddenly. As they looked at Yi Qingtang's aura right now, hesitation arose in the peak master's hearts. They did not know what this Yi Chen fellow's identity was. All they knew was that he suddenly came to the Falling Sky Valley and wanted to be apprenticed to perfected Xianxin. Moreover, the bribes that he gave to Xiongfeng before he was apprenticed were shockingly valuable. Furthermore, they heard that Master Du said that he was close friends with this fellow. Xianyuan Lai, what happened exactly then? Did the peerless school disciples really? The full moon peak master looked at Xianyuan Lai with uncertainty. Slightly dazed, Xianyuan Lai replied after hesitating for a while. When Yi Chun was exchanging blows with the two envoys, he mentioned the sea of clouds at Mount Qin. Afterward, the two envoys suddenly left. Xianyuan Lai did not understand what it meant either. But just when Xianyuan Lai mentioned the words sea of clouds at Mount Qin, the expressions of everyone at the hall changed. You really heard Yi Chun saying sea of clouds at Mount Qin? There was a subtle change in the full moon peak master's expression. Yes, Xianyuan Lai was bewildered. He did not know what these words meant, and why even his grandfather would have such an expression when he heard it. Chapter 780, Putting on a Complete Show 3. For a moment, the entire hall was dead silent, and everyone looked at Yi Qingtang with a serious expression. Yi Qingtang was emotionless, but she took in everyone's reaction. The full moon peak master frowned deeply. He never thought that this Yi Chun seemed to be related to the legendary hidden clans. Even perfected Xianxin was slightly taken aback. He originally planned to reduce Yi Qingtang's punishment in secret, and never thought that this fellow's identity did not seem to be so simple. Full moon peak master, how do you think this matter should be settled? Perfected Xianxin returned to his senses and asked the full moon peak master, who was ready to bite off Yi Qingtang's nose just a while ago. The full moon peak master's face stiffened. Yi Qingtang was from a dubious background and possessed shocking skills. Her family clan had an abundance of resources, and she even dared to go against the peerless school. The full moon peak master was rather convinced. If Yi Qingtang was really a member of a hidden clan, how could he lay a finger on her so easily? We will discuss this matter next time. The full moon peak master said with consideration, as he still needed to investigate Yi Qingtang's background before he could punish her. Xianyuan Lai was in a daze. He originally thought that Yi Qingtang would die without a doubt this time. Yet why did his grandfather suddenly change his stance? What exactly was the sea of clouds at Mount Qin? Perfected Xianxin nodded slightly and looked up at Yi Qingtang. Yi Chen, you can return first. Yi Qingtang lifted her hands and greeted perfected Xianxin before leaving the hall with Yin Qingluo. Just after they left the hall, Yin Qingluo sighed heavily. Junior brother Yi, today was really too thrilling. When you attacked the peerless school envoys just now, I was really shocked. Yi Qingtang smiled faintly without saying anything. If she did not retaliate just now, given the peerless school disciples' arrogance, both she and Yin Qingluo would probably have been killed by them. It was just that this measure could only deal with the emergency at the moment. Regardless of the peerless school or Falling Sky Valley, both did not take any further action, as they were apprehensive about the hidden clans. But as long as they investigated this matter, they could find out the loopholes in it. Yi Qingtang only avoided trouble temporarily. When the full moon peak master finds out that she was not from the hidden clans, that would be the true disaster. She could tell that perfected Xianxin had the intention of protecting her just now. If she could not deal with the full moon peak master, and the rest, then perfected Xianxin would be unable to protect her safety either. Furthermore, she did not intend to flee. If she fled, her master and her fellow disciples would go through the same tragedy in her previous life. Yi Qingtang narrowed her eyes. At this very moment, she desperately needed to raise her skills as soon as possible. She could resolve everything only by stepping into the yin-yang perfected Lord state. She still had a bottle of Black Heaven water in her hands that she had not used. However, it was insufficient to only rely on the Black Heaven water. Senior Sister Yin, I still have something on. You can return first. Yi Qingtang told Yin Qingluo. It was time for her to explore the Dragon Vein with Master Du. If she could attain advancements in the Dragon Vein, it would be the best. Yin Qingluo did not probe, and left after bidding goodbye to Yi Qingtang. After returning to her room, Yi Qingtang brought the little white tiger and the silver wolf with her before leaving Falling Sky Valley and heading to the central area of the Monarch City. At this time in Ouyang family clan, the Blood Moon Elder had passed off as Ouyang Qian for half a month, and it could be said that he was in his element there. Apart from the occasional grievance of being a lady, with the identity of Ouyang family clan's favorite child, he had anything he wanted and lived blissfully. Chapter 781 Birth Mystery 1. Young Miss, Clan Master specially sought these spirit pills for you. Please consume it on time. The housekeeper placed a heap of bottles of elixirs and spirit pills before the Blood Moon Elder. I got it. The Blood Moon Elder leaned against his chair and waved his hand perfunctorily. There's one more thing. Speak, the Blood Moon Elder said impatiently. That young Sir Yi is looking for you. He is waiting in the hall right now, the housekeeper said. The Blood Moon Elder frowned slightly. What young Sir Yi? Tell him to go back to wherever he came from. I have no time to meet him. The Ouyang family clan was good in all aspects, except for the fact that there was quite a number of Ouyang Qian's admirers who came to court her favor. Just looking at the faces of those who boasted to be distinguished and talented, the Blood Moon Elder was close to vomiting. The housekeeper immediately received the orders and was about to leave. However, a streak of light shot through his head, and he stood up from the chair at lightning speed. Which young sir did you say just now? Young Sir Yi. The young Sir Yi who sent you back, the housekeeper said innocently. The Blood Moon Elder finally took the situation in and ordered hurriedly. Go. Quickly invite him here. If Holy Lady knew that he almost ordered people to chase her away, wouldn't he be screwed? The housekeeper was already accustomed to his young Miss temperament, and invited Yi Qingtang in without thinking much about it. Once the housekeeper left, the Blood Moon Elder hurriedly bowed to Yi Qingtang. I was unaware of Holy Lattice arrival. Please pardon me for not receiving you earlier. Yi Qingtang looked at the slightly plump Blood Moon Elder and waved a hand. All right. I'm here to ask you something. Don't bother with these. Before she headed to the Bliss Forging workshop, she decided to ask the Blood Moon Elder about the situation over here. Noted. Why are you looking for me today, Holy Lady? The Blood Moon Elder asked with a grin. I wanted you to help me find out about the jade pendant the other time. How's your investigation? Yi Qingtang asked. Upon mentioning the jade pendant, the Blood Moon Elder's expression turned serious. Regarding the jade pendant, I've already found out some information about it. Tell me about it, Yi Qingtang said. That jade pendant is indeed related to the royal family of the Nine Knights dynasty. It's said that over 10 years ago, a lady suddenly appeared beside the former emperor of Nine Knights dynasty. That lady possessed remarkable abilities and assisted the former emperor to secure his position as the emperor in just a few months. That lady wore this jade pendant back then. However, after the former emperor's position was stabilized, that lady disappeared suddenly, and there's no more news of her from then on. Rumors have it that the lady was already pregnant when she appeared. The Blood Moon Elder explained in full detail. Yi Qingtang frowned slightly. More than 10 years ago. Calculating the time when that lady was pregnant coincided with the time of her birth. That jade pendant was subsequently found on her and brought back together with her foster father. Could that lady be her mother? Yi Qingtang's thoughts were complicated. Have you found out that lattice identity? Where is she now? Yi Qingtang asked. The Blood Moon Elder replied. The number of the royal family's secrets that the Ouyang family clan can access is already considered many, but it details very little about that lady. I only know that the lady was extremely skilled and was at the Yin-Yang perfected Lord State. The martial skills that she knew were very odd and completely unlike what ordinary people knew. Chapter 782 Birth Mystery 2. As the Blood Moon Elder spoke, He seemed to recall something suddenly and retrieved a brocade box from a shelf aside. It contained a monotype with some words. This is an inscription that the lady engraved when she was still in the Nine Knights dynasty. No one can understand the inscription at all. After that lady left, the former emperor secretly made copies of that inscription for the Ouyang family clan's elders to help to grasp its meaning. Take a look, holy lady. Yi Qingtang looked at the item in detail. When she took a glance, her eyes were focused on the 3 words Forgotten River Cliff on the inscription. Forgotten River Cliff? Surprise flashed across Yi Qingtang's eyes. Holy lady, you know about the Forgotten River Cliff? I lived for 1,000 years, but have never heard about this place. The Blood Moon Elder saw the words as well, but he completely had no idea what that place was. Apart from Forgotten River Cliff, there was nothing else he could understand from the inscription. Have you left this mainland before? Yi Qingtang asked. The Blood Moon Elder shook his head immediately. It would be creepy if you knew then. Yi Qingtang looked at the Blood Moon Elder and said, This Forgotten River Cliff is at another mainland. Huh? The Blood Moon Elder was completely stupefied. Yi Qingtang had been to the Forgotten River Cliff in her previous life. It was in another mainland, and within the Central Dynasty's boundary. If one had not been to that mainland, it was simply impossible for them to know about the Forgotten River Cliff. Yi Qingtang frowned lightly, as she thought of how the mysterious lady had powerful skills and odd martial skills. A thought suddenly occupied her mind. Even if mighty figures from other mainlands came to this mainland, their skills would be suppressed to the Yin-Yang perfected Lord state. Could she be from the Central Dynasty? Yi Qingtang was in deep thought as she looked at the words Forgotten River Cliff on the inscription. If there was no accident, that mysterious lady was her birth mother. Yi Qingtang never thought that her mother would actually not be from this mainland. She originally thought that she would get to the bottom of the mystery of her birth after coming to the Nine Knights dynasty. Yet unexpectedly, it was actually such a huge puzzle. Yi Qingtang took a deep breath. The confusion in her heart increased. This mainland was already isolated, and it was simply impossible for outsiders to enter. How did her mother arrive on this mainland then? Why did she come here when she was pregnant, and then disappear suddenly? Why did she leave the infant her behind? Was her mother still in this mainland, or had she already left? The more Yi Qingtang thought, the more she could not figure out everything. There was a possibility of resolving all these secrets only by entering the mainland, where the Central Dynasty was. Then, Yi Qingtang suppressed all the complicated and confusing thoughts. Now was not the time for her to think about these. You did very well for this matter. If you find out any more news about that lady in the future, notify me immediately. Rest assured, holy lady, I will definitely do my best. Holy lady, that lady and you. The Blood Moon Elder spoke a little hesitantly. She should be my mother, Yi Qingtang said with a soft sigh. The Blood Moon Elder nodded. However, Yi Qingtang did not notice that their conversation had fallen into the ears of the silver wolf from aside. Its eyes glanced at Yi Qingtang's deeply frowned eyebrows, and a strange expression flashed across his eyes. Chapter 783 Birth Mystery 3. Do you have any other things, holy lady? The Blood Moon Elder asked. No, I still have to make a trip to the Bliss Forging Workshop. Yi Qingtang replied. I'll send you there then. The Blood Moon Elder beamed. Yi Qingtang did not say anything and directly left the Ouyang family clan with the Blood Moon Elder. The Ouyang family clan's housekeeper felt very complicated when he saw the blooming spring expression on his young Miss face. As she left the residence with the beautiful young man there, young Miss rejected many handsome and talented young men in the Monarch City, but was so solicitous to this fellow. It can't be that she really took a fancy on him and wants to marry him. Can it? Yi Qingtang and the Blood Moon Elder walked towards the Bliss Forging Workshop, but before long, they saw a grand troop in black moving past them. The group of fully armed soldiers was transporting a middle-aged man who was locked in a cage and parading ostentatiously about the town. The leader of the troop was the premier's son Qin Shen. On a tall horse, Qin Shen swept his eyes across the crowd and suddenly caught sight of Ouyang Qian. In this half a month, Qin Shen went to the Ouyang family clan several times to visit Ouyang Qian, but was denied entrance. The presents he brought over were accepted by Ouyang Qian, but he did not even manage to see her. Then, Qin Shen ordered the troops to stop, and he hurried to Ouyang Qian directly. Qian, hearing this call out of a sudden, the Blood Moon Elder, who was walking with Yi Qingtang, had goosebumps all over. He looked up and saw Qin Shen blocking his way with a face full of smiles. What? The Blood Moon Elder looked at Qin Shen with a foul expression. Qian, what happened to you these days? Why are you always unwilling to meet me? If I wasn't transporting the city lord of Fuling City today, I would not meet you by coincidence. Qin Shen was completely unbothered by the Blood Moon Elder's dissatisfaction, and stayed on shamelessly. The Blood Moon Elder was about to chase him away, but he suddenly heard the words City Lord of Fuling City. His eyes flickered, and he immediately looked at the middle-aged man in the jail wagon. City Lord of Fuling City, this person you're transporting is Chu Xiangyang? Yes, Qin Shen said with a smile. Then, the Blood Moon Elder turned around hurriedly and whispered to Yi Qingtang. Holy lady, this Chu Xiangyan is that mysterious lattice guard. He followed that lady for quite some time. Perhaps he knows where that lady went. Yi Qingtang looked up at the resolute-looking Chu Xiangyang, who was detained in the jail wagon. Qin Shen only noticed the Blood Moon Elder just now, and did not see anyone else. Now that he saw the Blood Moon Elder whispering to the young man beside him, all of a sudden, a trace of malice passed his eyes. But when he saw the face of that young man, he was slightly stupefied. A few days ago, the Dragon Tiger General whined to his father that his son was killed. He mentioned that the murderer was a half-step yin-yang perfected lord, and sent that person's portrait over afterward. The person on that portrait was the beautiful young man who sent the Blood Moon Elder back to the Ouyang family clan that day. His father ordered him to search for this person, and find out whether there was a chance to rope him in. But Qin Shen did not see this person after several days of searching yet. Unexpectedly, he actually met the person here today. Chapter 784 Uninterested 1. It's young Sir Yi. I didn't think that I would meet you here today, Qin Shen said generously with a smile. I didn't have a chance to talk to you the other time we met. What a coincidence today. How about having a drink with me? Qin Shen asked. The Blood Moon Elder looked at Qin Shen unbelievably. If he remembered correctly, Qin Shen was not so polite when he saw Yi Qingtang the other time. Why was he so solicitous today? Yi Qingtang looked at Qin Shen and said, What crime did Chu Xiangyang commit? This person very likely knew her mother's whereabouts. Qin Shen smiled. Chu Xiangyang is the city lord of Fuling City, but abused his power to seek personal gains, and was disrespectful to the emperor. These are capital offenses. Qin Shen's voice was not soft, and Chu Xiangyang, who was able to hear it from the jail wagon, scoffed. Abused my power to seek personal gains? Fuling City is remote and barren. I served the royal family in the monarch city back then, and personally requested to be sent to Fuling City. If I wanted to abuse my power to seek personal gains, would I have gone to that place? Qin Shen cast a cold glance at Chu Xiangyang and said, Since you're being punished, it naturally means you have committed a crime. If you are out to condemn someone, you can always trump up a charge. In this Nine Knights dynasty, is it a crime if one doesn't obey your Qin family clan's orders? Is it a crime if one does not respect your father? Haha, Chu Xiangyang cackled sarcastically. The surrounding citizens felt indignant, but did not dare to speak out. Chu Xiangyang had a good reputation in Nine Knights dynasty. He was upright, outspoken, impartial, and could be said to be a rare good official. But so what if he was good? Currently, the young emperor was blinded by the Qin family, and the Qin family held all power. All it needed was a sentence from Qin Long, if he wanted to kill Chu Xiangyang. Chu Xiangyang, the emperor has already sentenced you to death. It is useless no matter how you struggle. Qin Shen scorned, completely unbothered that Chu Xiangyang publicly exposed the Qin family of wielding all power. He looked at Yi Qingtang from the corner of his eyes discreetly. His arrogance was also to display to Yi Qingtang the Qin family's position in the Nine Knights dynasty. If he could rope in a half-step yin-yang perfected lord, it would naturally double the might of the Qin family. Young Sir Yi, there's no need to listen to a criminal's nonsense. Seeing that we met today, how about having a drink together? Qin Chen brought the topic back. As Yi Qingtang looked at Qin Chen's favorable manner, she understood what he wanted. I like people who get straight to the point. Qin Chen chuckled. Young Sir Yi is indeed a direct person. Truth to be told, my father and I have heard about your actions in the black market that day. We know that you aren't an ordinary person, and that your skills are deeply admired. If you're willing to, my Qin family clan would be very pleased to befriend you. You want to befriend me? Yi Qingtang said indifferently. Yes. Qin Chen continued without concealing anything. In Nine Knights Dynasty, there is no one above the Qin family other than the emperor. If young Sir Yi is willing, we can provide you everything you need in Nine Knights Dynasty. And you just need to be an associate of the Qin family. I believe that you will not find an even more suitable friend than the Qin family in Nine Knights Dynasty. Qin Chen looked at Yi Qingtang meaningfully. Any cultivator who wanted to advance in skills required sufficient conditions for cultivation, and the Qin family could completely prepare all of these for Yi Qingtang. Chapter 785 Uninterested 2. It was rare for Qin Chen to show favor to someone in the Nine Knights Dynasty. Upon seeing Qin Chen's behavior, the citizens in the surrounding were increasingly curious of Yi Qingtang's identity. What exactly was this pretty young man's skills for the premier's son to be so courteous to? Chu Xiangyang laughed coldly as he watched the scene before him. Birds of a feather. Chu Xiangyang shot a look at Chu Xiangyang and said coldly, "You're a criminal and don't have a right to speak. Do I need to pluck out your tongue first for you to shut up?" Chu Xiangyang narrowed his eyes. You all fooled the new emperor and brought disaster to the state's affairs. Why can't I say, if my lord were still here, she would never allow you treacherous officials to rebel? Huh? Your lord? That woman you're talking about is already dead somewhere. It is simply ridiculous for a pregnant lady to parade about ostentatiously and interfere with the state affairs. Only useless trash like you would still be thinking of that missing woman. Qin Chen snickered. I'll order someone to cut your tongue right now. I want to see whether your shameless lord will come and rescue you. He continued. Afterward, Qin Chen looked at a guard beside him. Those guards immediately unsheathed their swords, walked straight to the jail wagon, and raised their hands, wanting to cut Chu Xiangyang's tongue. Heaven has eyes. It will definitely not let Nine Knights Dynasty become a toy in the hands of someone like you all. Even if I die, I still want to see your Qin family's downfall from the underworld. Chu Xiangyang bore the hopeless situation as he looked up at the sky with a straight face. Qin Chen ordered coldly, cut his tongue immediately. A few guards opened Chu Xiangyang's mouth and pulled his tongue out while another guard waved a sword down. But right before the sword landed, a figure suddenly flashed by Qin Chen. It rushed to the jail wagon as fast as a bolt of lightning in just an instant. An extremely overbearing aura exploded from the jail wagon, and the guards beside it were hurled away. In the next second, Yi Qingtang stood on the jail wagon steadily. Young Sir Yi, what are you doing? Qin Chen looked at Yi Qingtang in disbelief. His eyes were flooded with shock. Yi Qingtang looked at Qin Chen coldly. Qin Chen, I'll give you my reply right now. Making friends with your Qin family? I'm uninterested. The moment Yi Qingtang finished speaking, she stamped on the top of the jail wagon abruptly with a foot, and the indestructible jail wagon was broken into pieces the moment her foot landed. Chu Xiangyang's face was filled with surprise as he looked at Yi Qingtang, who suddenly rescued him. Yi Qingtang lifted a hand and broke the thick metal chains around Chu Xiangyang. Young sir, you are. Chu Xiangyang found it hard to believe that he actually regained freedom. Yi Qingtang replied, Since you followed your lord, don't throw her face. It is too filthy to die in the hands of this kind of person. Yi Qingtang originally did not intend to be nosy, but Chu Xiangyang once served her mother. Qin Chen was dumbfounded and did not know how he offended Yi Qingtang. Only the Blood Moon Elder from aside was well aware. Looking at the appalled Qin Chen, the Blood Moon Elder had already viewed him as a dead person. He had seen people who did not want their lives anymore, but not one who was so hurried to court death. He called Holy Lattice Mother a shameless woman, and even wanted to kill her mother's subordinate. Chapter 786 Uninterested 3. Young Sir Yi, what exactly do you mean by that? Qin Chen returned to his senses and asked with slit eyes. I want this person, Yi Qingtang said calmly. Although she was not 100% sure that that mysterious lady was her mother, it should not be wrong according to the clues she had currently. Chu Xiangyang was very likely someone who could verify this and know the whereabouts of that lady. Young Sir Yi, the Qin family respects you for your skills, but Chu Xiangyang was personally ordered to be beheaded by the emperor. If you want to save him, aren't you becoming enemy with the entire Nine Knights dynasty? Qin Chen said coldly. Is it the emperor who wants to behead me or your father Qin Long? The handwriting on the imperial decree that ordered me to the monarch city is clearly your father's. It's your Qin family who deceived the emperor and passed a false imperial decree to eradicate a dissident. Chu Xiangyang originally admitted his fate, but with the threat of survival now, he would not let it go. Qin Chen's eyes sharpened. If he really allowed Yi Qingtang to rescue Chu Xiangyang, what face would the Qin family have in Nine Knights dynasty in the future? Then, Qin Chen secretly sent a guard to relay the news to the premier's residence, while he led the troops to encircle Yi Qingtang and Chu Xiangyang. Young Sir Yi, as long as you don't interfere with this matter today, I will not fuss about it. Qin Chen warned for the last time. Yet, Yi Qingtang's face remained emotionless. A trace of malice flashed across Qin Chen's eyes, and he shouted immediately, Men, capture these two people. In just a moment, the surrounding guards rushed in like a swarm of bees. Qin Chen brought hundreds of guards in this trip, and a group of black-clothed people lunged at Yi Qingtang and Chu Xiangyang. Yi Qingtang glanced at the guards who charged at her and drew out her sword. The moment it was unsheathed, a cold gleam swept across the crowd all of a sudden. There was no one who could block the cold gleam wherever it passed, and those guards who charged forward were flung away by Yi Qingtang's sword aura. In just the blink of an eye, several square meters around Yi Qingtang were already empty. Astonishment passed Chu Xiangyang's eyes as he looked at the beautiful young man before him, standing behind Yi Qingtang. He was a little adrift as he gazed at his slim, yet formidable figure. It was as if the shadow from his memory overlapped with this young man's back view. He still remembered that 10 years ago when the imperial power was handed down, the former emperor's position was shaky. Under pressure from the officials, that shadow glided here and beheaded the traitorous armies, calming the unrest and stabilizing the entire country. Chu Xiangyang recovered from his surprise absent-mindedly. Hundreds of guards could not withstand a blow from this young man. Cries erupted at every area that the sword aura slashed at, and countless people collapsed on the ground. A hint of nervousness was evident in Qin Chen's eyes as he witnessed the sight. He was very clear that the guards he brought were not the match of a half-step yin-yang perfected lord. Seeing that there was not even a possibility of delaying the time, Qin Chen immediately turned around and wanted to shuttle through the crowd. Yi Qingtang sharply noticed Qin Chen's attempt to flee and chased after immediately. All Qin Chen felt was a strong oppressive force from his back. Simply unable to react in time, he suddenly felt a tug on his back, and he was instantly pulled back on the back of his collar by Yi Qingtang. Chapter 787 A Fierce Struggle 1. Stop! Just as Yi Qingtang grabbed Qin Chen, a furious holler rang. The premier Qin Long was rushing over with a large troop. Qin Chen immediately heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that his father had rushed over in time. Father, save me! Young Sir Yi, I've heard my son talking about you, and my Qin family has the intention of befriending you. May I know why you're suddenly attacking my son today? Qin Long walked over with a grim expression as he narrowed his eyes at Yi Qingtang, who was a few steps away. He brought men over after receiving the news earlier on, but he did not know how things reached this stage even when he originally wanted Qin Chen to rope Yi Qingtang in. With Qin Chen in Yi Qingtang's hands currently, Qin Long did not dare to adopt too tough of a stance. Yi Qingtang looked emotionlessly at Qin Long, the mastermind who brought disaster and chaos to the Nine Knights dynasty. Father, he wants to stop the jail wagon and rescue Chu Xiangyang, Qin Chen said. Qin Long frowned slightly. His eyes swept across the haphazard scene before him. and a trace of confusion flashed across his eyes when he saw the unscathed Chu Xiangyang. How was Chu Xiangyang related to this young man? Why did this young man want to rescue him? Young Sir Yi, Chu Xiangyang committed a serious offense and is a criminal of the Nine Knights dynasty. A family has its rules, and a country has its laws. I'm afraid it's against the law if you wish to rescue this person, Qin Long said with a sincere expression. What offense did he commit? Yi Qingtang asked coldly. Qin Long smiled and nodded at a guard beside him subsequently. That guard stepped forward and handed a stack of files to Qin Long. Qin Long publicly opened the file of which listed many offenses. As the city lord of Fuling City, Chu Xiangyang concealed the true state of affairs from above and below oneself, behaved unscrupulously, and even persecuted the citizens of Fuling City, causing many to die. Why must you rescue such a criminal, young Sir Yi? Fury boiled within Chu Xiangyang as he looked at the groundless crimes. Qin Long, those people I killed are your supporters. They are then the ones who tyrannize Fuling City. Not only did they forcefully snatch female citizens, but they even slaughtered everyone from their family. What wrong do I have for killing them? Qin Long responded with a calm expression. A family has its rules, and a country has its laws. If they did something wrong, you just need to put them on trial. Why do you need to lynch them? Put them on trial? Ha! In the entire Nine Knights dynasty, who dares to try someone from the Qin family? Even if I put them on trial, those evildoers will still eventually go unpunished and be set free, Chu Xiangyang said coldly. Qin Long looked at Chu Xiangyang, who could no longer hold his fury. The people are already dead. No matter what you say, isn't it all because of you? He directly looked at Yi Qingtang right after and said, Young Sir Yi, you are a reasonable person. Since you are doubtful of Chu Xiangyang's offense, why don't you release my son first? After that, we can slowly discuss. Yi Qingtang looked at the sanctimonious Qin Long coldly. In her previous life, she stayed in the Nine Knights dynasty for quite some time, and she was very clear of the Qin family's way. In the Nine Knights dynasty, there was nothing that the Qin family clan did not dare to do. How many loyal officials fell to the Qin family's evil schemes? How many citizens were butchered by the Qin family? If she believed in Qin Long's words, she would truly be a fool. If I release your son, I'm afraid you will never let me leave the monarch city, Yi Qingtang said indifferently. A vicious look flashed across Qin Long's eyes. Does this mean you wish to acquiesce to something after having refused my first overture? Chapter 788 A Fierce Struggle 2. Yi Qingtang shook her head suddenly. It is not impossible if you really want me to release your son. Just tell me any demands you have. Qin Long's tensed expression relaxed upon seeing that there was still a chance for a favorable turn. Yi Qingtang glanced at the surrounding citizens, and then looked at the vigilant Chu Xiangyang. You just need to clear Chu Xiangyang's name in public, kowtow to him, and admit your mistake. They'll release your son afterward. Everyone was bewildered by what Yi Qingtang said. Yi Qingtang wanted Qin Long to kowtow to Chu Xiangyang and admit his mistake in public? Even Chu Xiangyang himself was dumbfounded. A gloomy expression filled Qin Long's face as malevolence flooded his eyes. Insolent. Men come in. Qin Long was about to act up, but Yi Qingtang suddenly lifted a leg and kicked Qin Chen's legs. A miserable cry rang in the air. Qin Chen, whose legs were broken, knelt on the ground immediately as cold sweat trickled down his good-looking face due to the pain. Stop! Qin Long yelled loudly. How? Yi Qingtang asked. Wrath filled Qin Long's eyes. How dare you hurt my son? MHM. Yi Qingtang nodded. Without waiting for Qin Long to react, she waved her sword and chopped off Qin Chen's left arm. Blood gushed out immediately, and a strong smell of blood diffused in the air. Ah! Qin Chen howled in grief and collapsed on the ground. He clutched on the area where his left arm was broken, as his entire body twitched from the pain. I've already given you a chance to make a choice. Since you're unwilling to save your son, I have no choice then, Yi Qingtang said indifferently, but a trace of iciness suddenly passed through her eyes. She lifted her hand once again, and the demonic blood sword directly slashed across Qin Chen's neck. Sto. Qin Long roared in alarm. But he was still one step late. The moment Yi Qingtang waved her sword, Qin Chen's head was chopped off, and the blood-stained skull rolled to Qin Long's legs. Qin Long looked at his son's skull in disbelief, and fury filled his eyes. I want you to die. Chop her into pieces. Qin Long felt every part of him ripping. He wanted to skin and devour Yi Qingtang alive. The citizens in the surrounding area were astonished. After suffering under the Qin family for many years, how would they have expected that there was actually someone in this world who dared to kill Qin Long's son? And it was even right in front of Qin Long. Under Qin Long's orders, the guards around him attacked immediately. This time, Qin Long brought thousands of guards, and even moved the monarch city's garrison over. Furthermore, the group of skilled people whom he raised were dispatched as well. At that moment, everyone charged towards Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang narrowed her eyes slightly. Before she struck, a silver shadow suddenly flashed by and obliterated the front few people who were charging towards Yi Qingtang. Xiao Guai. A trace of a smile emerged in Yi Qingtang's eyes as she looked at the silver wolf, who suddenly blocked in front of her. The silver wolf did not waste any time, and directly used its sharp claws to tear apart the people who closed in on Yi Qingtang. An unusual look flashed by the little white tiger's eyes when it saw the silver wolf coming to the aid of Yi Qingtang. What the fuck? Bullying the outnumbered? The little white tiger shouted immediately and spouted a ball of white flame. Anyone who was touched by the white flame was engulfed instantly and turned into ashes in no time. Yi Qingtang had not attacked, but the silver wolf and the little white tiger had already killed near 100 guards in an instant. With a wolf and a tiger on each of her sides, her fierce stance caused one to tremble with fear. Chapter 789 A Fierce Struggle 3. The Blood Moon Elder rolled up his sleeves immediately, preparing to join the fight. However, a few guards whom Qin Long brought over suddenly arrived to the Blood Moon Elder's side and said, Miss Ouyang, this person is dangerous. Please leave quickly. Leave quickly? With a glare, the Blood Moon Elder crushed the two guards' head by ramming them together. He then leapt and dashed into the battlefield, and he stood on Yi Qingtang's side. In a towering rage, Qin Long was surprised to see Ouyang Qian suddenly joining the battlefield. Ouyang Qian, what are you doing? I am Ouyang family clan's young Mississippi. Do I still need to explain to you what I'm doing? The Blood Moon Elder scoffed coldly. Hatred was written in Qin Long's narrowed eyes. Ouyang Qian, my son treated you well, and the two of you were deeply in love. Yet, you're actually protecting my son's murderer now. Pfft! Who is deeply in love with your son? How is it possible for me to take a fancy on that dog? The Blood Moon Elder replied. Qin Long was so infuriated that he felt a pang in his chest. Holy lady, I'm here to assist you, the Blood Moon Elder whispered to Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang was speechless. The citizens were stupefied. Who exactly was this beautiful young man? Not only did he kill Qin Chen in public, even Ouyang family clan's young miss did not hesitate to step forward for him now. Holy lady, this wolf of yours is pretty good. The Blood Moon Elder glanced at the silver wolf aside. He had seen this silver wolf from afar for a few times, and today was the first time he saw it up close. The silver wolf stared blankly at him. Attack! Just don't injure Ouyang Qian. Qin Long ordered coldly. He did not know what bewitching potion this Ouyang Qian ate such that she actually would help this Yi fellow. However, if he really killed Ouyang Qian, the Ouyang family clan would completely fall out with him. Thousands of guards swarmed up, and more city guards rushed over upon receiving orders. An exceptionally fierce battle ensued on the streets of the monarch city. In just a few breaths, the streets near the battlefield were rounded by the city guards. The little white tiger looked at the endless guards before him, as its saliva for spitting fire almost dried up. A sharp, murderous expression flashed across Yi Qingtang's eyes all of a sudden. With a leap, the demonic blood sword in her hands was suddenly covered in a layer of golden fire, and she slashed her sword down. In a split second, the sword aura mixed with golden flames swept dozens of meters across. With a loud boom, everyone within the radius of the sword aura was swept away. Near 1,000 people fell to the ground, The Monarch City citizens who hid in the corner were astonished as they watched the fierce battle before their eyes. The Qin family clan was very arrogant and cruel in the Nine Knights dynasty, and the citizens had lived in repression for many years. Now that they saw the only young man who dared to challenge the Qin family clan's position striking, everyone's anger was vented. More and more city garrisons rushed over, but no matter their numbers, they were easily settled by Yi Qingtang. In just the blink of an eye, dead bodies laid everywhere, and an intense smell of blood diffused in the air. As Qin Long watched the powerful figures in garrison that he brought over collapse to Yi Qingtang's blows, shock gradually filled his eyes. He did not believe this half-step yin-yang perfected lord's inner qi would not be exhausted from battling the tens of thousands of garrison troops in the Monarch City. Chapter 790. A fierce struggle. 4. Qin Long had holden control over the Nine Knights dynasty's military for a long time, and even if the city's garrison was not enough, he had already moved the 100,000 troops stationed outside the Monarch City. Yi Qingtang slashed numerous people. Seeing that more and more garrison troops rushed over continuously, her eyes passed by everyone and looked straight at Qin Long, who commanded the troops at the back. In an instant, Yi Qingtang leaped past everyone and headed straight to where Qin Long was at. Qin Long was alarmed to see Yi Qingtang flying towards him. The powerful figures near Qin Long charged forward immediately. All of them were at the second heaven of martial qi level 3, and one of them was already at the third heaven of martial qi level 3. These people were roped in by Qin Long with great effort. In the battle earlier on, they did not attack and remained near Qin Long to protect his safety. Now that they saw Yi Qingtang flying towards them, they immediately joined forces and attacked directly. However, a glint flashed by Yi Qingtang's eyes, and a soaring inner qi erupted around her. With the flick of her wrist, she slashed across her surroundings. Before touching the corner of Yi Qingtang's clothes, those second heaven of martial qi level 3 figures were beheaded by Yi Qingtang in a second. The third heaven of martial qi level 3 figure was the only person remaining. His complexion was pale, and terror flashed across his eyes as he looked at Yi Qingtang, who resembled a fierce tiger that sprang down the mountain. Half-step yin-yang perfected lord. That powerful figure retreated a step out of fear. Qin Long never said that the enemy was a half-step yin-yang perfected lord when he came just now. Although this powerful figure was roped in by Qin Long, how did he dare to continue fighting a half-step yin-yang perfected lord? How would a person focused on power and influence like Qin Long understand the true might of a half-step yin-yang perfected lord? Then, that powerful figure immediately stopped and said respectfully to Yi Qingtang with cupped fists, "Please do not take offense for offending you today. Sorry for bothering you. I'll take my leave first." Then, without daring to stay any longer, that powerful figure immediately left Qin Long behind and fled away. Qin Long could just die on his own and not pull him along. How could he fight a half-step yin-yang perfected lord? A half-step yin-yang perfected lord could easily slaughter Qin Long from the crowd, even if another 100,000 troops came. Qin Long watched in disbelief as his strongest associate threw him behind and escaped by himself. Before Qin Long could recover from his fury, Yi Qingtang had already arrived before him. The guards beside him simply could not bear a blow from Yi Qingtang, whose overbearing air caused them to fall to the ground and tremble. Qin Long looked up and met Yi Qingtang's cold eyes. Shaken, he instinctively took a step back. Insolent. I am Nine Knights dynasty's premier. Do you dare to hurt me? If you hurt me, the entire Nine Knights dynasty will definitely not let you off. Qin Long's ruthless manner was already gone, and he could only put on a calm front. Yi Qingtang looked at Qin Long indifferently with eyes devoid of emotions. If she released Qin Long now, he would definitely use all the power he held in Nine Knights dynasty to take her life. But if Qin Long died, the people in Nine Knights dynasty would only make use of the opportunity to scramble for the power he left behind. Who would still look for her? Qin Long had committed too much evil over these years, and no one would avenge him even if he died. Chapter 791. Old Acquaintance 1. Yi Qingtang lifted her hand and hit Qin Long's head. Just before Yi Qingtang's hand landed, a gleam suddenly flew over from behind Qin Long and pulled his body back instantly. Seeing that she missed, she looked up immediately, and a tall figure suddenly appeared before her. She slammed her hand out. That person directly lifted his hand and went up against Yi Qingtang directly. Boom! A loud crash erupted, and a violent blast of wind raged in the aftermath. Yi Qingtang was slightly taken aback. When they exchanged blows, the other party's skills were actually not below hers. After a blow, that person suddenly took a step back. It was then when Yi Qingtang saw that the person who suddenly attacked was a tall male with tough features. That man was about mid-30s, and there was a hideous scar on his left cheek, causing his entire face to appear even fiercer and eviler. Long Jiang? Yi Qingtang's eyes flickered when she saw the person, and she immediately looked behind that male. As expected, behind that male was a royal sedan. An 8 to 9-year-old boy in a golden dragon robe was seated on the royal sedan. That boy was extremely good-looking, but there was a mischievous and unruly expression on his face. He held his chin high up arrogantly as he glanced at Yi Qingtang with despise. Qin Long was drenched in cold sweat, as his life hung on by a thread. When he saw the boy on the royal sedan, he heaved a sigh of relief, and immediately kowtowed with a depressed expression. Qin Long greets Your Majesty. Your Majesty, if you didn't arrive in time, my life would have ended here. The boy on the royal sedan was none other than Nine Knights Dynasty's current emperor, Long Xian. The little emperor frowned as he looked at the tearful Qin Long. Rise quickly. I want to see which person in Nine Knights Dynasty dares to touch you. Qin Long wiped his tears and hid away the snicker in his eyes before flattering. With Your Majesty here, I feel relieved. The little emperor nodded and glared at Yi Qingtang with impatience etched on his face. How bold of you! How dare you revolt in my Nine Knights Dynasty's monarch city? Long Jiang, kill this lowly peasant. The man who struck earlier on received the orders immediately and took a step forward. Yi Qingtang looked at the little emperor coldly, and her eyes subsequently landed on the man called Long Jiang. Long Jiang was the ace of the Nine Knights Dynasty royals, and was a half-step yin-yang perfected lord. He had always remained loyal to and protected the emperor, and because of his watch, Qin Long had never been able to truly take over the emperor's position. Even Qin Long did not dare to be too impudent before Long Jiang. Ascending the throne at a young age, that little emperor was deceived by Qin Long and trusted him fully. Now that Yi Qingtang was after Qin Long's life, he naturally thought that Yi Qingtang should die without questioning. Long Jiang stood before Yi Qingtang, and a strong aura emerged around him. Seeing that Long Jiang was about to strike, Chu Xiangyang rushed out hurriedly. Long Jiang, no. A trace of surprise flashed across Long Jiang's eyes when he saw Chu Xiangyang. Brother Chu. Chu Xiangyang had a complicated expression as he looked at Long Jiang. Over 10 years ago, when Chu Xiangyang was still the captain of the Imperial Guards, Long Jiang was Chu Xiangyang's subordinate and was loyal to the same lord as Chu Xiangyang back then. Chapter 792 Old Acquaintance 2. Long Jiang's high cultivation was personally taught by that lady in order to leave someone who could be a powerful protector by the Grand Imperial Sire's side. One Chu Xiangyang did not say anything to Long Jiang. He walked straight to the royal sedan and kowtowed to the little emperor. Your Majesty, the incident today started because of me. Please do not blame him, Chu Xiangyang said while kneeling to the little emperor. The little emperor cast a glance at Chu Xiangyang and said, Who are you? Who allowed you to talk to me? Men, bring him away. Long Jiang, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and kill that lowly peasant for me. Chu Xiangyang was shaken. Before he could say anything, he was brought away by a few guards. Your Majesty, Chu Xiangyang still wanted to speak. The little emperor frowned impatiently. Shut him up. How noisy. Qin Long grinned at the little emperor's idiocy, and a pleased expression filled his eyes. He arched a brow when he saw that Chu Xiangyang was gagged. Long Jiang was originally a little hesitant, but the little emperor had given his orders. Then, he directly charged towards Yi Qingtang resolutely. The skills of a half-step yin-yang perfected lord were not what ordinary people could compare to. Long Jiang's speed and strength were extremely frightening. Yi Qingtang's expression remained normal as she watched Long Jiang charging towards her. She had long known that the little emperor did not know what was right or wrong due to Qin Long's deceit, and also knew that Long Jiang only listened to the emperor's orders. She immediately lifted her hand and attacked head front. The battle between two half-step yin-yang perfected lords was terrifying. In just the blink of an eye, the surrounding buildings were crushed in the aftermath from the battle. The little emperor's gaze did not remain on the battlefield as he looked straight behind, where his eyes sparkled the moment he saw a fierce silver wolf and a tender little white tiger. Men, catch that silver wolf and little cat. The silver wolf narrowed its eyes. The little white tiger glared at that unbridled child. What the fuck? How dare he say that I'm a cat? The guards were about to close in on them, but were suddenly killed by a golden flame. Long Jiang was slightly stupefied. He never thought that not only was this pretty young man not in the disadvantageous position in their battle, but he even had spare time to attack others. Long Jiang, why haven't you killed him yet? The little emperor shouted unhappily when he saw that his sport was spoiled. Long Jiang's eyes flickered. He was not as relaxed as before. He and this young man were both half-step yin-yang perfected lord, and their skills were nearly the same. However, the golden flames around this young man was a thorny problem, and he could not take the young man down. Yi Qingtang's eyes sharpened as she looked at Long Jiang's serious expression. Adjusting her paragon skill, a golden flame crashed at Long Jiang all of a sudden. Long Jiang's eyes dilated upon seeing a strong flame surging towards him, and an inauspicious feeling took over. There's something wrong with this golden flame. Long Jiang hurriedly shifted his inner qi. The moment the golden flame crashed, a loud boom shattered everyone's eardrums. Long Jiang was forced back several meters by that force, and most of his clothes were burnt. There was even a searing pain that remained on his skin. They were both half-step yin-yang perfected lords. Never had he thought that this young man's skills would actually be above his. Chapter 793 Old Acquaintance 3. Qin Long's eyes widened in shock as he looked at the battered Long Jiang. Long Jiang had already advanced to a half-step yin-yang perfected lord many years ago, and Qin Long assumed that Long Jiang would definitely be able to settle this insensible young man. But looking at the situation now, Long Jiang, what are you doing? I'm giving you a limit of 3 moves to kill this lowly peasant. Impatience was written all over the little emperor's face as he reproached loudly. There was a trace of solemnity on Long Jiang's face. Suddenly, he took a deep breath, and strings of golden rays emerged from the bronze skin on his chest. The golden rays slowly gathered on his body and formed into a vivid and lifelike giant dragon totem. Vanquishing dragon from heaven? Chu Xiangyang stared in disbelief at the golden dragon that gradually formed on Long Jiang's body. Long Jiang, when did you ask her lordship to lay the vanquishing dragon from heaven for you? Chu Xiangyang exclaimed. There was not a trace of emotion on Long Jiang's face. As the golden rays gathered, the gold dragon that was marked on his body floated out. A thunderous dragon roar suddenly rang. A giant gold dragon suddenly soared out and panned above Long Jiang's head. The giant dragon had an extremely mighty manner, as though it was an extraordinary being of nature. The citizens in the surroundings were shaken to see that giant dragon, and reverence filled their eyes. The vanquishing dragon from heaven was a technique used by her lordship, and it made use of the dragon's aura to seal the enemy's body. This move could only be used once, and was extremely damaging to the user, but its offensive ability was frighteningly strong. Her lordship casually mentioned that the vanquishing dragon from heaven could demolish a place utterly with the use, but it would shorten the user's life. Chu Xiangyang never thought that Long Jiang had actually asked her lordship to mark the vanquishing dragon from heaven on him. One young Sir Yi, careful. Chu Xiangyang warned hurriedly. Yi Qingtang's eyes were narrowed into slits as she looked at the gold dragon above Long Jiang. She quietly gathered the inner qi in her body and prompted the paragon skill in her body. It was the first time that the little emperor saw the gold dragon, and he could not help but be pleasantly surprised. Quick, kill him for me. Long Jiang took a deep breath. Suddenly, his inner qi broke out of his body and gathered on the gold dragon. The gold dragon absorbed the endless qi and let out a deafening roar. In the next second, the gold dragon opened its mouth and charged towards Yi Qingtang. A fierce wind stirred as the gold dragon dived towards Yi Qingtang mightily with a groan. A trace of coldness flashed across Yi Qingtang's eyes. All of a sudden, a golden flame spread around her, and a fiery phoenix which materialized from flames was born. Ultimate origin skill, Rise of the Phoenix. With a cry, the fire phoenix with balls of flame directly pounced on the oncoming giant dragon. In an instant, the gold dragon and fire phoenix crashed. Under the impact, everything in the surroundings was crushed and swept away. A piercing phoenix cry rang, and the fire phoenix directly used its sharp claws to tear the illusory gold dragon into pieces. In the gold dragon's distraction, patches of gold light scattered on the ground. Long Jiang never expected that his vanquishing dragon from heaven would actually be shredded into pieces by the fire phoenix that Yi Qingtang materialized. The gold dragon disappeared, and the counter-damage force rushed to Long Jiang's body, and he spouted a bolt of blood. The die was cast. Long Jiang's eyes were filled with shock. Never would he have thought that the vanquishing dragon from heaven, which he requested her lordship to mark on him, would actually be defeated like that. Chapter 794 Spank Your Bottom 1. Long Jiang retreated disappointedly as blood seeped out from the corners of his mouth. One panic was evident on Qin Long's face, and even the little emperor's mischievous expression turned blank. Long Jiang? What are you doing? Hurry! Recovering from the shock, the little emperor stood up and pointed at Long Jiang, who was severely injured. However, before the little emperor finished reproaching, a slim figure suddenly flew to his front. He was directly lifted up from the royal sedan before he could react in time. Insolent! How dare you be disrespectful to me? Release me quickly! The little emperor looked at Yi Qingtang with wrath written all over his face and made threatening gestures to hit Yi Qingtang. But his small arms and legs were nowhere near enough for him to be Yi Qingtang's opponent. And no matter how he swung his fists, he could not touch Yi Qingtang a bit. Yi Qingtang lifted the little emperor from the royal sedan and leaped to her original position. The little emperor had never been treated like this by others and roared angrily. How dare your filthy hands touch me? Put me down quickly. I will slaughter your entire clan. Yi Qingtang raised a brow and looked at the brutal and tyrannical little emperor. She did hear of this little emperor's fatuous and unruly behavior in her previous life, but it turned out to be even worse when she witnessed it today. Yi Qingtang lifted the little emperor with one hand, while the other hand struck his bottom. Pow 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 pow. The sound of a bottom being spanked could be heard in succession. That clear sound dumbfounded everyone at the scene. He actually hit the emperor's bottom? The little emperor was stupefied from the spanking. He had never been hit by someone in his life. Lowly peasant! How dare you hit my bottom? I want to kill you. I want to kill your entire clan. Yi Qingtang was emotionless as she looked coldly at the little emperor who was still clamoring nonstop. She raised her hand once again and spanked the little emperor's bottom without restraint. To this day, a dignified emperor had never been spanked on his bottom in public before. Escort! Escort! Flushed from the spanking, the little emperor was in pain and frantic. Only then did the guards return to their senses. They were about to move forward, but they did not dare to move an inch after Yi Qingtang cast them a cold glance. Not mentioning the fact that even the most skilled person in Nine Knights Dynasty, Long Jiang, was not this young man's opponent. The fact that the little emperor was in the young man's hands caused the guards to not dare to move recklessly. Otherwise, their entire clan would be exterminated if the little emperor was injured. Lowly peasant! Release me quickly. Pow pow pow. Yi Qingtang slapped his bottom successively once again. If you scold me once, I'll spank you 10 times. The little emperor was stupefied. He glared at Yi Qingtang angrily, yet he was afraid of being hit, and could only purse his lips. His pink cheeks were puffed up from the anger, and his teary eyes were filled with exasperation and embarrassment. You! Put His Majesty down quickly. Long Jiang barely steadied himself as he looked at Yi Qingtang with a frown. You are not my opponent. Yi Qingtang looked at Long Jiang indifferently. Long Jiang's expression stiffened, but he had to admit it. He simply had no chance of winning against this young man. Your little emperor is in my hands now. If you want him to be safe and sound, kill Qin Long, and I'll release him. Yi Qingtang's eyes suddenly landed on Qin Long. Long Jiang looked straight at Qin Long, and a trace of murderous air emerged in his eyes. Chapter 795 Spank Your Bottom. Too alarmed, Qin Long said hurriedly, Guard Long. You must not listen to this person's nonsense. He seized His Majesty now, and it's already a capital offense. Even if you kill me, he will not release His Majesty. Long Jiang's brows were slightly furrowed. Sensing the arrival of a crisis, Qin Long did not give Long Jiang any time to think, and glared at Yi Qingtang immediately. What an audacious traitor! How dare you threaten His Majesty's safety? Man, capture him. Qin Long's yell stunned everyone. The guards had a blank expression. Do you all not care about your emperor's life and death anymore? Yi Qingtang suddenly asked Qin Long. Qin Long snickered, although he still put on a righteous expression on his face. It's simply impossible for someone like you to release His Majesty. Although His Majesty is young, he is still the ruler of the Nine Knights dynasty, and would never submit to you. Man, it is a must to kill this traitorous peasant today. Qin Long knew that if there was an option, Long Jiang would definitely use him to exchange for the little emperor's life. But if he did not do anything, he would be waiting for death. Qin Long, you're insolent. Long Jiang hooted at Qin Long with a glare. However, Qin Long did not bother with Long Jiang, and immediately took out the military seal which he carried on him. The military seal is in my hand, and no one can defy my orders. Guards, receive my command. Use all your might to kill this traitor. You. Long Jiang was boiling with fury, and wanted to step forward. However, the counter-damage effect caused him to spit out blood, and his footsteps to be unstable. The Nine Knights dynasty had long been under Qin Long's control, and the little emperor was merely an emperor in name, who did not hold any power. With the military seal in Qin Long's hands currently, the garrison troops received the command immediately, and gathered towards Yi Qingtang. The little emperor looked at the soldiers who surrounded him with widened eyes that were filled with disbelief. Qin Long, are you crazy? I'm still in this person's hand. How dare you ignore my safety? The little emperor was not so foolish this time. A murderous intent flashed across Qin Long's eyes while his face was ice cold. Your Majesty, the entire Nine Knights dynasty will definitely be grateful to you for your grace in contributing your body for the nation. The little emperor's eyes almost popped out from glaring, having expected all of this. Yi Qingtang watched on emotionlessly. She suddenly lifted her hands, and directly threw the furious little emperor to the Blood Moon Elder beside her, before sprinting to the front of Qin Long. Qin Long did not even have any time to react, and only saw a shadow flashing by him. In the next second, a light suddenly flashed by his eyes. Blood spouted out like a fountain. Qin Long widened his eyes as he held onto his slit throat in disbelief. Large gushes of blood flowed out through his fingers. He retreated in a flurry, and crashed onto the royal sedan behind him before falling on the floor. Never would Qin Long have thought that after controlling Nine Knights dynasty for years, he would actually die in this young man's hands. In just a moment, all color was drained from Qin Long's face, and the last ray of luster in his ambition-filled eyes extinguished silently. Qin Long was dead. Long Jiang had complicated feelings as he looked at the dead Qin Long. He immediately looked up at Yi Qingtang and said, Qin Long is dead already. You can release His Majesty now. Yi Qingtang cast Long Jiang a look and replied, I said that I'd release your emperor if you kill him. You. Long Jiang was shaken. Chapter 796 Grand Imperial Sire. 1. Yi Qingtang turned around and strolled back. The little emperor was in the Blood Moon Elder's hands, and he bit the Blood Moon Elder the moment he returned to his senses. The Blood Moon Elder's reaction was very fast, and he lifted the little emperor up immediately. Imitating Yi Qingtang's stance, he raised his hand and slapped the little emperor's bottom. Damn! How dare you think of biting me? The little white tiger watched the little emperor from aside, and suddenly felt that this scene was seemingly familiar. How will you release His Majesty? Long Jiang took a deep breath and asked. Yi Qingtang did not hurry to reply Long Jiang, and spoke to Chu Xiangyang instead. I have something to ask you. Come over first. Chu Xiangyang took a step forward. Please speak, benefactor. Yi Qingtang asked softly. Is her lordship whom you mentioned the lady who assisted the former emperor? Chu Xiangyang was rather taken aback. Yes. Do you know where she went? Yi Qingtang asked. Chu Xiangyang shook his head. Her lordship left hurriedly back then, and did not say anything to us. Moreover, she was with the Grand Imperial Sire on the last day, and disappeared afterward. Yi Qingtang frowned slightly, as she did not expect the outcome to be like this. From what Chu Xiangyang had said, the last person who interacted with that lady was Nine Knights Dynasty's Grand Imperial Sire. Yi Qingtang pondered for a moment and looked at Long Jiang. I want to meet the Grand Imperial Sire. What? Long Jiang was a little stunned. As long as the Grand Imperial Sire gives me a reply to a question, I'll release your emperor, Yi Qingtang said. Although she was rather confident that the lady was her mother, she needed to confirm it once again. Furthermore, she needed to know where that lady went. Long Jiang's expression darkened. The Grand Imperial Sire was extremely ill, and had been bedridden for years. His body was very frail. And if this person was allowed to meet the Grand Imperial Sire, Long Jiang was caught in a dilemma. The great emperor's only child was the little emperor, and Long Jiang himself was not the young man's opponent. If the other party really killed the little emperor, Nine Knights Dynasty would no longer have any ruler. I agree. But you must promise to release His Majesty after you meet the great emperor. Long Jiang compromised as he had no alternative. Okay. Yi Qingtang nodded. Helpless, Long Jiang could only lead Yi Qingtang, and the rest back to the palace. The deaths of the father and son of the Qin family were gratifying to the people. Moreover, Qin Long's action of self-protection at the last moment stirred the dissatisfaction of the masses. When the crowd was gone, the corpses of the father and son of the Qin family were abandoned on the corners of the street, without a single person to collect their dead bodies. Passing through the glamorous corridors of the royal palace, Long Jiang stopped outside the living quarters. The Grand Imperial Sire is inside. I'll go in first to report to him. Yi Qingtang nodded in agreement. The little emperor had a twisted expression as he watched Long Jiang enter. He secretly took a peek at Yi Qingtang, but frantically looked away in fear when Yi Qingtang's eyeballs moved. In no time, the main entrance to the living quarters was opened. The Grand Imperial Sire told you all to enter, Long Jiang said. Yi Qingtang and the Blood Moon Elder entered the living quarters. Although it was daytime outside, the living quarters were dim without a ray of light shining in. The thick curtains blocked the sunlight that entered through the window, and the massive living quarters were only a little lit up by candles. The moment Yi Qingtang entered, she smelled the faint smell of herbs. Grand Imperial Sire, I've brought them in. Long Jiang walked to the bedside and slowly lifted the bed curtains. Chapter 797 Grand Imperial Sire 2. Father, save me! The little emperor shouted. After lifting the bed curtain, a haggard middle-aged man was laying on the wide bed with weak breaths. The originally handsome face was, however, shriveled like a dried corpse. His limbs that were exposed out of the blanket were exceptionally dry, as though there was only a layer of skin that wrapped around the bones. A pair of eyes fluttered open weakly, and looked at the group of people at the bed's end. Father! As the little emperor looked at his father, his eyes reddened involuntarily. At this moment, he was no longer a stubborn and rash emperor, but merely a child. My son has offended you all. Please forgive him. May I know, what do you all have to ask me? The Grand Imperial Sire uttered slowly, and every word was spoken with great effort. Yi Qingtang looked at the Grand Imperial Sire before him complicatedly. She had heard that the Grand Imperial Sire was very ill, but she did not know that it would be this serious. It was no wonder he had to abdicate and let his 5-year-old son succeed him. Compared to the mischievous little emperor, the Grand Imperial Sire gave others a much more gentle and polite feeling. Without saying anything, Yi Qingtang took out that jade pendant from her space ring and placed it before the Grand Imperial Sire. When the Grand Imperial Sire saw that jade pendant, a trace of shock flashed across his eyes, and he looked up at Yi Qingtang strenuously in disbelief. Why do you have this jade pendant? So the Grand Imperial Sire recognizes it indeed. I am here today because of the jade pendant. Yi Qingtang spoke slowly. Recognize? How can I not recognize it? This is an item she carried on her back then. But why would this be in your hands? I clearly saw her placing it somewhere else back then, the Grand Imperial Sire said. To tell you the truth, this jade pendant is related to my parentage. If you know about it, please let me know. Yi Qingtang replied, Wah, what? The Grand Imperial Sire widened his eyes with great effort, and he scanned Yi Qingtang. You said that this jade pendant is related to your parentage? This jade pendant was on me when I was still an infant. When my foster father picked me up, this jade pendant was with me. Yi Qingtang explained. The Grand Imperial Sire looked at Yi Qingtang with widened eyes, but suddenly shook his head. No, it's not possible. This jade pendant cannot be yours. She was pregnant when she came to the Nine Knights dynasty and assisted me to steady my position as the emperor. However, she was about to go into labor back then as well. She seemed to be worried about something and wanted me to secretly hide her. After her labor, she placed that jade pendant with that child. I personally witnessed her placing the jade pendant with her child, but that child was a girl. Yi Qingtang suddenly turned around, wiped her disguise away, and returned to her original voice. I am originally a girl. Yi Qingtang turned around and looked at the Grand Imperial Sire. In just a moment, when Yi Qingtang returned to her original looks, the Grand Imperial Sire and Long Jiang were completely shocked. Your lordship. Long Jiang widened his eyes in disbelief, and even Chu Xiangyang who came along gasped. The young lady who stood before them clearly resembled their then lord greatly. It's you. So it's you. The Grand Imperial Sire's body trembled as he looked at Yi Qingtang, and tears fell down from the corners of his eyes. Chapter 798 Grand Imperial Sire 3. Finally found you. The Grand Imperial Sire's eyes were filled with agitation as he looked at Yi Qingtang. After your mother gave birth to you, she asked me to send you to a safe place. I didn't know what she is worried about, and could only listen to her orders. After you were sent away, your mother left. But I never thought that. The Grand Imperial Sire shut his eyes tightly as agony filled his face. I ordered people to send you away, but never thought that those people never returned or reported back. Afterward, I assigned people to investigate, but we completely lost news of you. They only found the corpses of the people who sent you away. I thought that you met a mishap. But unexpectedly, you're still alive. This is great. Otherwise, if you died, I have no face to face your mother. The Grand Imperial Sire clutched onto the blanket tightly as he looked at Yi Qingtang with a mix of surprise and delight. Is she really my mother? Although she had guessed it, this outcome caused her to have mixed feelings. There's no wrong in this. You resemble her a lot, and this jade pendant was found on you. Judging from your age, you should be her daughter. The Grand Imperial Sire nodded with certainty. That lady was a rare beauty in this world. If there was no blood relation, how could anyone look like her? Yi Qingtang sorted out her thoughts for a while. Chu Xiangyang recovered from the surprise and immediately kowtowed to Yi Qingtang. I was unaware that you're our young lord. Please pardon me for my offense. Long Jiang knelt on the floor as well and kowtowed to Yi Qingtang. I am guilty as I have offended you, young lord. Please punish me. Yi Qingtang looked at the two people in astonishment. On the other hand, the Grand Imperial Sire's face was full of smiles. They're originally guards whom your mother nurtured. Ever since your mother left, Chu Xiangyang was unwilling to remain in the palace, while Long Jiang was instructed by your mother to protect my safety. Although he is loyal, he is a little dull. If he offended you, I am all to blame. Kneeling on the floor, Long Jiang was filled with regret. Had he known earlier that Yi Qingtang was her daughter, he would not dare to hurt her at all even if he died. Rise. I don't blame you all, Yi Qingtang said. Chu Xiangyang and Long Jiang rose slowly. Yi Qingtang continued asking, Grand Imperial Sire, so do you know where my mother went? The Grand Imperial Sire sighed and said, She has never said much about herself. I can only feel that she seems to be hiding from someone. She once said that she is not from this mainland, and that she came here for the child in her womb. Since you were delivered, she left after settling you down. It seems that she returned to her original homeland, but as for where exactly that place is, I do not know. The Grand Imperial Sire shook his head helplessly. Yi Qingtang's heart weighed down slightly. That lady was really her mother. Others may not know about that lattice homeland, but she knew. It was the central mainland. All right. Yi Qingtang's doubts were finally resolved. As expected, she still had to go to the central mainland to find out about her mother's identity and origin. In her previous life, her foster father died early and did not tell her about her identity. As a result, even though Yi Qingtang went to the central mainland before in her previous life, she did not know that her birth mother was just there. Chapter 799 Grand Imperial Sire 4. I am relieved to see that you're well today. The Grand Imperial Sire smiled. He had been suppressing this matter in his heart for a long time. He had sent people countless times, and even personally went to search many times, but he still did not have any news. Don't worry, Grand Imperial Sire. Young Lord is very powerful now, and even Long Jiang is not her opponent, Chu Xiangyang said with a beam. Oh, that's the best. The Grand Imperial Sire smiled in gratification. Since you're back now, just remain in Nine Knights Dynasty. Although my illness is beyond hope, I still can provide what you need. You can treat it as repayment to your mother, the Grand Imperial Sire said. However, Yi Qingtang shook her head. I appreciate your kindness. I will let you know if I need anything. Nine Knights Dynasty was ultimately not where she belonged. May I know how your illness is? Can you let me take a look? Yi Qingtang asked. Since the Grand Imperial Sire was someone her mother once helped, she did not wish to see the Grand Imperial Sire being bedridden with a lingering sickness. The Grand Imperial Sire nodded. As Yi Qingtang checked the Grand Imperial Sire's pulse, her brows furrowed slightly. This is poison. The Grand Imperial Sire was stunned. If there's no accident, it should be that someone added a chronic poison in your food. Yi Qingtang explained. Both Long Jiang and Chu Xiangyang were shocked. How can it be? Many highly skilled physicians attended to the Grand Imperial Sire before, but no one knew the reason. How can it be poison? Long Jiang questioned. The perpetrator is very careful. Then, Yi Qingtang retrieved a bottle of pills from her space ring and continued. Consume this pill every day. You must pay attention to the food in the palace. If possible, change all the people, and allow only your trusted subordinates to prepare your food. With 300 years of experience in her previous life, she had seen many varieties of poison, and this poison was not a problem for her. Knowing Yi Qingtang's identity, Long Jiang and the rest naturally believed her words fully, and immediately fed the Grand Imperial Sire a pilei. Soon after the Grand Imperial Sire consumed it, his complexion recovered. Although he was still weak, he was already more vigorous. Exactly who dares to lace poison in the Grand Imperial Sire's food? Long Jiang narrowed his eyes. You all will have to investigate this yourselves, Yi Qingtang said. The Grand Imperial Sire nodded. Since he knew that he was poison, he would naturally take care of the matter carefully. As he was able to become Nine Knights Dynasty's emperor, he was not a useless person either. Father, the little emperor was overjoyed when he saw that the Grand Imperial Sire's complexion had improved. Release him. Yi Qingtang told the Blood Moon Elder, who was still carrying the little emperor. The Blood Moon Elder released his grip immediately. The little emperor ran to the Grand Imperial Sire's bedside hurriedly and pointed to Yi Qingtang with a furious expression. Father, it's her. She humiliated me in public. Hurry up and kill her. The Grand Imperial Sire was shocked. Before Yi Qingtang could say anything, he lifted his hands strenuously and slapped his son. Insolent! You are not to be rude to her. The little emperor fell on the ground from the slap, and looked at his father in shock. Father, you have never hit me. Forget it that you're usually unruly, but I'm telling you that if you're rude to this lady, I will break your legs. If not for her mother's assistance back then, I would have died long ago, and you wouldn't even be here. I have warned you today. If you dare to be insolent to her again, you'll get out of Nine Knights Dynasty, and ill-treat it as though you are not my son. It was the first time the Grand Imperial Sire was this strict to his only son. Chapter 800 Emperor Dowager 1. Father. The little emperor stared at the Grand Emperor pitifully. The door of the bedroom was pushed open by someone suddenly. An elegant and graceful lady walked in. The lady was dressed in gorgeous clothes, and was at most 26 or 27. There was almost no trace of childishness that belonged to girls, but more demureness. The moment the lady pushed open the door, a trace of astonishment appeared on the delicate face of the little emperor, who was sitting on. Son! The little emperor raised his eyes, and burst into tears the moment he saw the lady. He immediately rushed into her arms and cried, "Mother, father just beat me." The lady was slightly stunned. She was the Emperor Dowager now, the Grand Emperor's only wife, and the little emperor's mother. The Emperor Dowager was shocked as she saw the red finger marks on the little emperor's face. She raised her head and looked forward. However, she was stunned. There was a pretty young lady who was standing beside the dragon bed staring at her expressionlessly. The Emperor Dowager was surprised by Yi Qingtang's appearance, and almost dropped the food in her hand. Mother, this rabble just beat me in front of others. I told father about that. He did not help me but beat me instead. Mother, you need to stand up for me. The little emperor pointed at Yi Qingtang, and complained towards the Emperor Dowager with tears. The Emperor Dowager panicked for a second, and then put up her calm expression. She sized up Yi Qingtang carefully and frowned slightly. Grand Emperor, what are you doing? Xian is your only child. How dare you to beat him? The Emperor Dowager said coldly, as she looked at the Grand Emperor, who was lying on the bed. You're the one who always spoils him, resulting in his disobedient attitude. The Grand Emperor stared at the Emperor Dowager and frowned. He only married one person as his wife in his life. Disobedient? That's because you did not care for him at all. Did you once pay attention to him since he was born? You spent all your time looking for the person, and cared for that woman. If I did not protect our son, how could he survive in this world? The Emperor Dowager scoffed and hugged the little emperor. He's just a kid. How disobedient can he be? The Grand Emperor felt blood rushing towards his chest. He wanted to educate the little emperor in the past, but was interrupted by the Emperor Dowager. He did not have the energy to educate him, as he lay in bed all the time. Why did you let these rabbles in here? The Emperor Dowager scanned through Yi Qingtang, and the rest coldly. Long Jiang, what were you doing? How dare you to let these rabbles in to disturb the Grand Emperor when he is still ill? Are you planning to do something to the Grand Emperor? Long Jiang narrowed his eyes, and a cold light flashed across his eyes. He only served one person as his master. It was his master's order to protect the emperor. If not, why would he always protect the Grand Emperor and the little emperor? Yi Qingtang stared coldly at the Emperor Dowager. She was calling them rabbles all the time. Now, Yi Qingtang knew that where the little emperor learned his vulgarities from. Don't be rude. This girl is her daughter. The Grand Emperor gasped for air and said. A trace of astonishment flashed across the Emperor Dowager's eyes. After studying Yi Qingtang's appearance, the astonishment was replaced by malice. Chapter 801 Emperor Dowager 2. It's her again. You have been thinking of her for more than a decade. Isn't it enough? Did she even appear in the past decade? If not for me, who else would look after you all the time? The Emperor Dowager sneered, and took a deep breath to suppress her anger. She put down the food in her hand onto the table. Today you beat your own child for her daughter. Are you going to give the entire Nine Knights dynasty to her daughter after a few years then? Shut up. The Grand Emperor frowned. Yi Qingtang did not say anything at the side. However, she sensed something from the conversations. According to the rumors, The Grand Emperor had married the Empress when he was enthroned. Yi Qingtang's mother came to the Nine Knights dynasty and assisted the Grand Emperor to secure his position. It seemed that the Grand Emperor did not only feel gracious and admiring towards her mother. The Grand Emperor did not adore any other woman in his life due to that special feeling. That was why he only had one empress that he married earlier. The Emperor Dowager must have sensed all these and was reconciled to accept the truth. Yi Qingtang's sight landed on the food that the Emperor Dowager brought. I was saying nonsense. All these years when you lay on the bed, you did not care for your son at all, but sent people to look for her daughter. You think that I don't know about that? As his father, your care towards him is even less than the Premier Qinlong. Do you even feel sorry for us? The Emperor Dowager released her anger at once. How dare you to mention Qinlong? If not because of him, how would the Nine Knights dynasty end up like this now? The Grand Emperor raged. His body that had just slightly recovered previously was shivering in anger. The Emperor Dowager stared at the Grand Emperor. Her eyes were cold. Suddenly, Emperor Dowager, it seems that you like Qinlong? Yi Qingtang said slowly. The Emperor Dowager frowned slightly and took a glimpse at Yi Qingtang. How dare you to speak here, rabble? Yi Qingtang glanced at the Emperor Dowager and said, It's not your call to make whether I'm able to speak here. Aren't you the one who is stepping over the line when the Grand Emperor is here? The Emperor Dowager's eyes sparkled. The Grand Emperor's health was deteriorating every day. He did not even have the strength to get off the bed. She was in control of the whole palace, and she treated the Grand Emperor as a useless person. Yi Qingtang waited for the Emperor Dowager's reaction and said, It seems like you are in good relations with Qinlong. If not, why would you poison the Grand Emperor's food for him? Everyone in the bedroom was shocked after Yi Qingtang finished her words. How dare you to frame me? Men, drag this rabble down. The Emperor Dowager stared at Yi Qingtang. A few guards who followed her here dashed into the bedroom after the Emperor Dowager commanded. Do you think I'm a dead person here? How dare you touch her? The Grand Emperor struggled to sit up. The guards were stunned and did not dare to step forward. You were saying that it's the Emperor Dowager who poisoned me in my food. The Grand Emperor looked towards Yi Qingtang in disbelief. Grand Emperor, don't listen to this rabble's nonsense. Why would I poison you? The Emperor Dowager said coldly. Yi Qingtang took a bowl of porridge from the table and took a sniff. The rotting bone powder does not have any smell or color. Even a silver needle cannot detect its presence. I don't know how many good people have died under the Qin family because of this powder. I'm very curious. Did the Emperor Dowager get the rotting bone powder from Qinlong? Chapter 802 Emperor Dowager 3. Bullshit. I don't even know about the rotting bone powder. The Emperor Dowager scoffed. How dare you to frame my mother, rabble? Mother only loves and cares for father. She brings food here every day. How dare you frame her? The little emperor shouted in anger. Yi Qingtang did not bother with her quibble. She asked the Blood Moon Elder to bring a plant over. Yi Qingtang then poured the porridge slowly onto the plant. However, nothing happened to that charming flower. A trace of sarcasm flashed across the Emperor Dowager's eyes. What else do you have to say? She sneered. Wait. Yi Qingtang put down the empty bowl and then took a glass of sake. A panic look flashed across the Emperor Dowager's eyes suddenly. I heard that the Grand Emperor likes to drink alcohol, especially the Qingyu sake from the northern parts tribute, and that he takes a glass every day after his meal. Do you still have this habit in recent years? Yi Qingtang looked towards the Grand Emperor and asked. The Grand Emperor nodded. The Qingyu sake was not what he loved, but what she loved. Now the beauty was long gone. He could only recall some moments when he took the Qingyu sake. It's always been like that. He responded. Yi Qingtang lifted her hand and poured the Qingyu sake onto the plant. The moment when sake landed on the petals, the bright flower suddenly lost its color and wilted in front of everyone. This? A trace of astonishment flashed across the Grand Emperor's eyes. Though the Emperor Dowager was not his true love, he did not mistreat her after marrying her for more than a decade. He did not expect that she would be the one who poisoned him. The Emperor Dowager closed her eyes slowly and sighed when she saw that the flower wilted. The rotting bone powder is a strong poison, but it hides in the body. It can only be triggered when you take the guiding drug along. Thus, even if someone suspects something, as long as one did not mix these two, one would never find out about the poison inside. Yi Qingtang held the empty glass and looked at the Emperor Dowager, whose face was pure. Emperor Dowager, why do you want to poison me? Pain filled the Grand Emperor's eyes. Though he did not love her, he treated her like his little sister all the time. The Emperor Dowager opened her eyes and scoffed. Poison you? Are you the victim, or I am the one? Mother! The little emperor was shocked. He could never imagine that his most respected father would be poisoned by his own mother. The Emperor Dowager did not hide anything since the truth was revealed. When you were enthroned and married with me back then, I thought that you would treat me with your true love. However, after you met that woman, you lost your soul, and your eyes could not contain anyone else. My most beautiful years were wasted in your hands. I am the victim. You can find me in this cold palace for my entire life. The Grand Emperor stared at the Emperor Dowager with grievances. I asked about your opinion previously. If you were not willing to be my wife, I would send you out of the palace till you found a suitable one. It was you who was not willing to leave. Leave? Why? I am the mother of the country, the Empress of the Nine Knights dynasty. Why would I leave the palace? The Emperor Dowager scoffed. You! The Grand Emperor stared at the Emperor Dowager in front of her. He remembered that when she just entered the palace, he treated her as his little sister as she was still young. However, the little sister had such ambitions all the time. Chapter 803 Consequence of Your Own Sin 1. Grand Emperor, you're useless now. My son is the Emperor of the Nine Knights dynasty, and am the Emperor Dowager, the only Emperor Dowager. The Emperor Dowager squinted her eyes as her disguise was exposed. She did not only want the Grand Emperor's love, she wanted the supreme honor in the Nine Knights dynasty. How dare you? Blood spurted out of the Grand Emperor's mouth as he shouted enraged. Long Jiang, get her! Long Jiang immediately dashed towards the Emperor Dowager. The Emperor Dowager's eyes flickered. She raised her hand and threw the little emperor in her arms towards Long Jiang. Long Jiang immediately stepped back and held the little emperor. The little emperor's eyes were full of disbelief when he was thrown out by the Emperor Dowager to defend herself. The Emperor Dowager took out a copper bell in the gap. She shook the bell. Long Jiang's body shivered, and a pool of blood spurted out of his mouth in the next second. You poisoned me? Long Jiang staggered. A sharp pain came from his abdomen area. It was clear that there was a poisonous worm in his body. The Emperor Dowager scoffed. You are left here by that woman. How could I let go of you? The Emperor Dowager had planned everything a few years ago. It took her great effort to poison the Grand Emperor and Long Jiang. Long Jiang, how would I not guard against you when you are the strongest person in the Nine Knights dynasty? You are alive now only because you could suppress Qin Long. The Emperor Dowager sneered. She raised her chin slightly and waved towards the guards behind her. Take down everyone here. Mother. The little emperor stared at her mother, who was always kind to him, unbelievably. The Emperor Dowager looked at the little emperor and said, Son, your father is dying soon. The Nine Knights dynasty will be yours and mine in the future. The power we have here is unshakable, if we are assisted by the Qin family. You are always my little daring. Come to me. The Emperor Dowager then stretched out her hands towards the little emperor. The little emperor's sight swept through the Grand Emperor and the Emperor Dowager as he struggled. He kneeled down in front of the Emperor Dowager. Mother, please let go of father. A cold light appeared across the Emperor Dowager's eyes. Mother, please. I'd rather not have the position as the emperor. I only want both of you by my side. Please don't hurt father anymore. As the little emperor begged continuously, he knocked his head onto the ground. His disobedience and mischief were just an attempt of his to catch his father and mother's attention. He would feel delighted even if his father scolded him. However, his mother was always busy and did not care for him. His father rested in bed all the time, and his mother did not allow him to visit all the time. Useless. How would I give birth to such a useless person? The Emperor Dowager's eyes were cold. She was still young, so she could still have another child, even if she abandoned the little emperor. If you can't choose the right side, don't blame me for being merciless. The last warmth in the Emperor Dowager faded as well. Mother! The little emperor opened his eyes wide in disbelief. Come, take him down as well, the Emperor Dowager said coldly. She would not need a disobedient child. All the guards listened to the Emperor Dowager. They rushed forward once the Emperor Dowager commanded. Chu Xiangyang's eyes flickered, and pulled out his sword immediately. However, another figure was even faster than him. Chapter 804 Consequence of Your Own Sin. 2. Yi Qingtang's figure was like a ghost that swept across the guards. The guards all collapsed onto the ground instantly. The Emperor Dowager was stunned. She looked toward Yi Qingtang. As all the 10 elite guards she brought were lying on the ground now. Yi Qingtang immediately took a leap and landed behind the Emperor Dowager. The demonic blood sword in her hand was placed on the Emperor Dowager's neck. The arrogance in the Emperor Dowager was immediately replaced by astonishment. If you kill me here, none of you can leave here alive. The Emperor Dowager pretended to be calm and said, Why is that so? Yi Qingtang asked slowly. The Emperor Dowager sneered. I am cooperating with the Qin family. If there is no information from me that is sent to the Qin family, they will lead an army of 100,000 people here and enclose the palace. You will never be able to leave this place alive. The Emperor Dowager had planned long ago for this day to arrive. She had the perfect backup plan for herself. Qinlong, I forgot to tell you something. Yi Qingtang stared at the Emperor Dowager without any trace of panic. What? The Emperor Dowager said. Qinlong was dead just now. Yi Qingtang said calmly. What? Qinlong is dead? How is that possible? The Emperor Dowager was shocked. Chu Xiangyang said. Qinlong was killed by our young lord. Emperor Dowager, even if you die here today, no one will rebel. The Emperor Dowager was stunned, and then noticed the presence of Chu Xiangyang. She remembered those who were left here by the woman clearly. She ordered Qinlong to murder those who blocked her way. Today, it should have been the day Chu Xiangyang died. However, he was still alive and standing in front of her? You chose the wrong person on your last move, Yi Qingtang said slowly. The Emperor Dowager's face was filled with surprise, and she fell to the ground. The gracefulness on her face disappeared. How is it possible? How did Qinlong die? She could not believe it. Her plans were totally destroyed. The Emperor Dowager raised her eyes and looked at Yi Qingtang, who was holding the demonic blood sword. It was clear who the murderer of Qinlong was when Chu Xiangyang called her as the young lord. It's you. Both you and your mother are bitches. You ruined me. I will never let you go even if I become a ghost. The Emperor Dowager's eyes were filled with craziness. She threw herself towards Yi Qingtang insanely. Yi Qingtang kicked her towards the ground. Mother! The little emperor immediately leaned himself beside the Emperor Dowager. Though she wanted to kill him just now, she was still his mother. I lost. I totally lost. The Emperor Dowager could feel the pain from her entire body as a result of the kick. A trace of malice appeared in her eyes, as the little emperor was trying to get her up nervously. She suddenly stretched out her hands, seized his neck. I will not give up so easily. The rotting bone powder has no cure. You are meant to die. He's your only son. If he dies, there will be chaos in the Nine Knights dynasty. Ha ha ha. I will not lose. I need the entire Nine Knights dynasty to die along with me. The little emperor's face turned purple, and he stared at his ferocious mother. He could never imagine that his own mother would want to kill him. Chapter 805 Consequence of Your Own Sin 3 Puff. A deep sound suddenly rang. A sharp sword pierced through the Emperor Dowager's chest. Yi Qingtang stared at the Emperor Dowager, who was killed by her sword, and pulled out her sword. The force on the little emperor's neck disappeared. He coughed violently and opened his eyes wide. The Emperor Dowager fell backward instantly, and the blood flew onto his body. Mother! The little emperor crawled towards the Emperor Dowager immediately. Large drops of tears fell onto the Emperor Dowager's body. He stretched out his hand and covered the wound on the Emperor Dowager's chest. Warm blood spilled over his hand. "Don't die, mother. Please, please don't die." The Emperor Dowager's face was nearly expressionless. Blood stained her cheeks. She trembled and lifted her hand to reach for the little emperor's neck. However, she did not have the strength to seize his neck anymore. The Emperor Dowager finished her last breath. Her twisted craziness and greed disappeared along with her life. Perhaps, she once loved the Grand Emperor and the Little Emperor. However, her love could not beat her ambition and her hatred. Eventually, all of them ruined her entire life. Greed could only kill one's conscience. "Mother!" The little emperor shouted and cried as he lied on the Emperor Dowager's body. He could not understand. He always listened to his mother's orders and Qin Long's command to be a fatuous emperor. But why eventually? He still lost his mother. The Grand Emperor stared at the Emperor Dowager's corpse and closed his eyes slowly. Whether it was hatred or guilt, nothing would matter anymore. Blood spread out in the room slowly. Yi Qingtang put back her demonic blood sword and stared at everything happening in front of her eyes. Suddenly, she seemed to realize something. She bent down and took the Emperor Dowager's space ring and opened it. A batch of letters was taken out. The words "Formidable Heavens Royals" were written on the letter. What is this? The Grand Emperor looked through the letter in shock. The content really surprised him. The letter was filled with the secret information of the Nine Knights dynasty that the Emperor Dowager wanted to reveal to the Formidable Heavens Royals. The arrangement of the armies at the borders and the secret paths in the palace were all written clearly inside. Yi Qingtang understood what was going on after taking a glimpse at the letter. She found the Emperor Dowager's words peculiar just now. Why could she be so sure that the entire Nine Knights dynasty would die along with her? Yi Qingtang remembered the war between the Formidable Heavens dynasty and the Nine Knights dynasty in her previous life. Though the Nine Knights dynasty lost miserably, the Formidable Heavens dynasty's victory was too easy. Thus, she was suspecting whether the Emperor Dowager did something. "I did not expect that she would be so vicious. She wanted to destroy the entire Nine Knights dynasty," the Grand Emperor sighed. If the information was leaked, the Nine Knights dynasty would definitely lose when the war began. It was lucky that the key information about the Nine Knights dynasty was not leaked to the Formidable Heavens dynasty. The information seemed to be the final leverage in the Emperor Dowager's hands. If Yi Qingtang did not discover the Emperor Dowager's ambition today, according to the progress in her previous life, the secrets would be passed to the Formidable Heavens dynasty in a few years' time. The Formidable Heavens dynasty would then attack the Nine Knights dynasty after knowing all the secrets. Chapter 806, A Kind Act 1. The most vicious thing is a woman's heart. It seems that it's not an empty saying. The Grand Imperial Sire laughed bitterly. He could understand why the Empress Dowager hated him. Yet, she actually wanted to ruin the entire Nine Knights dynasty. Had she never thought of how innocent the Nine Knights dynasty citizens were? The little emperor is young, and it's difficult for him to preside over the political affairs. The Empress Dowager wished to use Qin Long to stabilize the current situation. Yet she was also worried that Qin Long would end up usurping the throne. Thus, she made use of everything to seek a road out for herself. Yi Qingtang explained slowly. She must say that it was sorrowful that the Empress Dowager was so scheming. She originally thought that the failure of the Nine Knights dynasty was because of Qin Long. But unexpectedly, it was all a scheme by the Empress Dowager. Bring her out. Bury her with the Empress Dowager rights. The Grand Imperial Sire shook his head helplessly. Not letting anyone else know about the incident today was the last thing he could do for the Empress Dowager. From then on, no one would know about the Empress Dowager's actions. She was still the dignified and graceful Empress Dowager in the people's hearts. "Father." The little emperor looked at the Grand Imperial Sire with reddened eyes. The Grand Imperial Sire called him to his side and touched his head remorsefully. "Son, you are the Emperor of Nine Knights dynasty. As the Emperor, you must be responsible for the safety of all Nine Knights dynasty citizens. It's time you grow up." "Father, I was wrong." The little emperor wiped his tears away. No matter how insensible he was, everything that happened today forced him to mature quickly. How could an emperor stay innocent and ignorant? You should know that your mother's outcome today is a consequence of all her evil doings in the past. Do not hate others, the Grand Imperial Sire said worriedly. The little emperor nodded and turned to look at Yi Qingtang. He walked to Yi Qingtang's side with his short legs and bowed to her. I was insensible. Please forgive me, sister. Looking at the little emperor, who seemed to mature a lot in a short moment, Yi Qingtang was not in the mood to fuss over the matter with him. It's all right. The little emperor stood there with tears trickling down. He wiped the tear stains at the corners of his eyes and did his best to maintain a firm gaze as he looked at the Grand Imperial Sire. Father, I will try very hard to become a good emperor. I will never embarrass you again. He no longer had his mother and could not lose another father. The Grand Imperial Sire smiled in gratification. Yi Qingtang looked at the Grand Imperial Sire. Deep down, she knew that with the elimination of the internal trouble, as long as the Grand Imperial Sire consumed that pill regularly, he would recover in no time, and the little emperor would have someone to teach him. It seemed that the little emperor's fatuity and stubbornness were deliberately instilled in him by the Empress Dowager. Only then would he be easier to control. Yi Qingtang turned to look at Long Jiang, whose complexion was pale. Come over here. I'll help you to remove the goo. Long Jiang replied. There's no need for the trouble, young lord. When I asked her lordship to mark the vanquishing dragon from heaven back then, I was already determined and resolute. Once the vanquishing dragon from heaven is used, I will not have many days left ahead. Even if I am poisoned with goo, there's no big deal either. There's no need to trouble yourself, young lord. Yi Qingtang raised a brow as she looked at Long Jiang, who was only thinking about death. Who said you don't have many days left? Walking forward, Yi Qingtang locked Long Jiang's wrist and checked his pulse. A trace of a smile flashed across her eyes unconsciously. Her mother was truly a kind person. Perhaps the vanquishing dragon from heaven truly would reduce one's lifespan, as you said, but my mother probably held back a trick or two and did not mark the true vanquishing dragon from heaven on you. So, you don't need to worry about your lifespan. If it was really a definite kill move from the second mainland, how could she defeat Long Jiang so easily? Chapter 807, A Kind Act. 2. Long Jiang had a complicated expression. Back then, he knew of her lordship's heart to assist the Grand Imperial Sire, and thought of helping her to fulfill her wish since she was going to leave. Hence, he requested her lordship to mark the vanquishing dragon from heaven before she left. Yet unexpectedly, Yi Qingtang helped Long Jiang to remove the venomous insect. In her previous life, perfected Zuanshan's skills decreased drastically after he was poisoned with goo by Yi Yu, and he eventually died. As a result, Yi Qingtang studied a lot on the goo from then on. The goo in Long Jiang's body was considered pretty powerful, but it was not a problem for her now. The sky was already dark when everything was settled. Yi Qingtang originally decided to look for Master Du today, but decided to postpone it to the next day since it was late. The Grand Imperial Sire was more than glad and ordered some men to arrange a room for Yi Qingtang. There were too many things involved in the Empress Dowager's incident. The information delivered to the formidable Heavens dynasty was already a headache itself, but it was fortunate that some confidential secrets were still unexposed. As there was a slight improvement in the Grand Imperial Sire's health, he gathered all his trusted subordinates in the court that night, and the old troops left behind by Yi Qingtang's mother in preparation to reorganize the boundaries and areas of strategic importance. Looking at the Grand Imperial Sire's spirit and enthusiasm, Yi Qingtang knew that he should be able to help Nine Knights dynasty attempt a comeback and remodel this decadent dynasty, given his capability and the elimination of the concealed danger. The tragic war between the two dynasties in her previous life could perhaps be avoided. Even if there was a war again in this life, Nine Knights dynasty would probably be able to retaliate unlike in her previous life. Although she was delayed by a day, it was nothing much if it could allow Nine Knights dynasty to avoid this calamity. Although Yi Qingtang did not like being nosy, Nine Nights Dynasty was a place where her mother once stayed in after all. The sky was dark, and Yi Qingtang fell into a slumber in the living quarters that the Grand Imperial Sire arranged for her. The moonlight shone through the window and scattered on the wide bed that Yi Qingtang was sleeping peacefully on. In the dark, the silver shadow transformed into a human figure without a sound. Han Songming stepped in the moonlight and slowly walked to Yi Qingtang's bedside. A trace of oddity emerged in his cold eyes as he looked at the girl, who was asleep on the bed. The little white tiger opened its eyes secretly, and its eyes flickered when he saw Han Songming in his human form. Han Kangming's eyes passed by Yi Qingtang's tightly shut eyes, and eventually landed on the jade pendant which she wore on her neck today. There was a subtle change in his expression. Suddenly, he lifted his hand, and a black aura floated out from his palm. It gradually gathered on the ground and shaped into the form of a wolf. Waving his hand, the black mist faded away, and a silver wolf that was exactly the same as Han Kangming's wolf form laid at where he was at originally. However, that silver wolf's eyes were dull, without the slightest bit of intelligence, as it lay on the ground motionless. Han Songming made a tiny cut on his finger, and a drop of blood flew towards that silver wolf's glabella. Then, the silver wolf's eyes brightened, and it rose from the ground. An intense murderous aura was entrenched on its body as it bared its fangs fiercely at all the living beings in the living quarters. A trace of coldness flashed across Han Kangming's eyes, and killing intent surged out of him. The invisible killing intent was like a monster which swallowed the sun and moon, enveloping that ferocious silver wolf in it. In just a moment, the silver wolf felt that boundless killing intent and instantly trembled in fear. Tucking its tail, it crouched down on the ground and let out a frightened whimper. Chapter 808 A Kind Act 3. Stay with her. Han Songming looked coldly at the silver wolf that was transformed using the killing intent around him. Han Songming could absorb the killing intent in the world, and his blood was full of killing intent. If he wanted to, he could separate some of the killing intent, which could then possess a certain level of consciousness once it condensed and took a form. Just like this silver wolf before them. What the fuck? You're going to leave already, but you still made this plaything to hog space. The little white tiger looked at the silver wolf, which was transformed from killing intent. Han Songming cast the little white tiger a look. The little white tiger snorted. Hurry up and leave if you're leaving. Since you wish to help her find her mother's whereabouts, leave swiftly. They were beside Yi Qingtang the whole time today, and naturally could tell that Yi Qingtang had the intention of searching for her mother. With Han Songming wanting to leave now, what else could it be other than for this matter? Han Songming ignored the little white tiger's clamor and simply walked to Yi Qingtang's side. Looking at the ring on her finger, he drew out some spiritual energy from his glabella and injected it into the ring. Yi Qingtang might not know where her mother went, but Han Songming knew. Her mother had left this mainland over 10 years ago. If she wanted to find her, the only option was to head to the central mainland. There was a complicated expression in Han Kangming's eyes as he looked at the girl, who was sleeping soundly. He had witnessed the girl grow stronger step by step, and she was never a weak person who needed to be protected under someone's wing. Then, Han Songming headed out of the living quarters, and his figure vanished in a flash. What the fuck? He finally left. The little white tiger wiggled its ears as it watched Han Songming leave, before looking at the silver wolf that recovered slightly. The silver wolf's gaze was slightly fiercer than before, but it took a look at the ring on Yi Qingtang's hand apprehensively. Afterward, the silver wolf automatically looked at the little white tiger at his side, and the ferocious expression emerged in its eyes once again. A trace of coldness passed by the little white tiger's eyes, and an extremely overbearing aura poured out of its body. The silver wolf was shocked to see the aura around the little white tiger, and it crouched on the ground in fear. What the fuck? How dare you bare your fangs at me? The little white tiger snickered coldly with narrowed eyes. The silver wolf sprawled on the ground, trembling. It was filled with grievances, yet it did not dare to move an inch. The next morning, Yi Qingtang woke up from her slumber. She seemed to be exceptionally deep in sleep last night. She changed her clothes and put on her disguise once again before bringing the little white tiger and silver wolf out of the living quarters. It might be a misperception, but she felt that the silver wolf seemed a little strange today, and she did not know what was strange. Its aura was clearly the same. Feeling that she was perhaps overthinking, Yi Qingtang left the hall and was greeted by Long Jiang and the Blood Moon Elder, who had been waiting outside the hall for a long time. The Grand Imperial Sire wanted me to hand this token to you. Long Jiang walked forward and handed a token to Yi Qingtang. There was a lifelike dragon carved on the token. The Grand Imperial Sire bestowed this token to her lordship back then, and she returned it to him before she left. This token can command any one of the 9 Knights dynasty. Long Jiang explained slowly. Yi Qingtang picked up the token and stored it in her space ring. I still have some matters to settle, and will take a leave first. Then, she told the Blood Moon Elder. Miss Ouyang can return first as well. The Blood Moon Elder did not have any objections. Looking at the clear and boundless sky, Yi Qingtang immediately set off to the Bliss Forging Workshop. Chapter 809 Blade 1. Although Yi Qingtang's cultivation base was already at half-step Yin-Yang Perfected Lord, it was far from sufficient. Not mentioning the skills of the Peerless School, there was still a threat from the central mainland. Currently, the dimension wall was already broken, and this mainland would probably face a calamity sometime soon. The only thing Yi Qingtang could do now was to raise her martial skills rapidly. On this mainland, there were no other destinies for her to advance to the Yin-Yang Perfected Lord state, rapidly apart from the Dragon Vein. After a while, Yi Qingtang arrived at the Bliss Forging Workshop. As in the past, there were still many visitors, including the 9 Knights Dynasty Royals. At the Bliss Forging Workshop, Yi Qingtang passed through the crowd with the Silver Wolf and the Little White Tiger, and entered the Bliss Forging Workshop rapidly. Young Sir Yi, you're here. Du Sheng was stunned to see Yi Qingtang, and hurriedly received her. Yi Qingtang nodded and said, I'm here to look for Master Du. Hearing that, Du Sheng immediately chased away everyone who came to visit the Bliss Forging Workshop, and closed the door. Master has ordered that as long as young Sir Yi comes, everyone is to be chased away, and he will only attend to young Sir Yi. Du Sheng smiled. Then, Yi Qingtang was led into the inner hall by Du Sheng. Master Du was forging a weapon in the hall at this moment. Master, young Sir Yi is here, Du Sheng announced. Master Du hurriedly looked in Yi Qingtang's direction, and was brimming with smiles upon seeing that it was indeed Yi Qingtang. He stood up immediately and said, Young Sir Yi, you really made me wait for a long time. He had been too impatient to wait for the Dragon Vein. However, it was impossible for him to enter the Dragon Vein without Yi Qingtang. Master Du, is the weapon that I asked you to forge complete? Yi Qingtang asked with a smile. It's already forged. Wait for me for a moment, Master Du said and left. After a while, Master Du returned with a long black sword that seemed as though it was dyed with ink. Black grade. Yi Qingtang was in thought as she stared at the long sword. In this world, all Dharma treasures and weapons were divided into 4 grades, namely Heaven, Earth, Black, and Yellow. A yellow grade weapon could not be compared to a black grade weapon in any aspect. This sword is forged according to the prototype of the ancient sword, Regicide Skyblade. Although it's an imitation, it is extremely powerful, and is a leader amongst the black grade weapons, Master Du said rather proudly. Regicide Skyblade, Yi Qingtang mumbled. The Regicide Skyblade was said to be a heaven-grade weapon from the ancient era, and there were no traces of it presently. Thank you for your effort, Master Du. Yi Qingtang smiled as she looked at the black-grade weapon in satisfaction. After all, it was made from the Millennium Meteoric Iron. With Master Du's craft on top, it would definitely be good. After keeping the long sword, Yi Qingtang retrieved a few kilograms of meteoric iron and said, Master Du, this is your remuneration. However, Master Du waved his hand and said, Brother Yi Chun, you're treating me as a stranger like this. With our relation, there's no need for any remuneration. Yi Qingtang was rather speechless. It seemed that Master Du was determined to make her go to the dragon vein with him. Brother Yi Chun, how are you considering the matter regarding the dragon vein? Master Du asked with a grin. You will decide on the time. Yi Qingtang replied. Chapter 8:10 Blade 2. Upon hearing that, Master Du was slightly stunned and had a look of surprise. He originally thought that he still needed to convince her. Unexpectedly, Yi Qingtang agreed just like this. Great. Brother Yi Chun is indeed a straightforward person. After gaining Yi Qingtang's agreement, Master Du chuckled as his eyes twinkled with excitement. The trip to the dragon vein, which he had been planning for over 10 years, could finally be realized today. However, we still have to make a good plan. Master Du sighed before saying with a serious expression. Yi Qingtang was not in a hurry over that. In these 2 days, Yi Qingtang remained in the bliss forging workshop and discussed the details of the plan with Master Du. However, Yi Qingtang realized that the little white tiger disappeared from the bliss forging workshop unknowingly. She searched for a long time, but still could not find it, and only a silver wolf with ferocious eyes remained. What is wrong with Xiaoguai recently? The same time at the northern mainland, screams and roars of demonic beasts echoed in an ethereal valley. What the fuck? Get the hell away. I'll pull out your skin if you make a noise again. The little white tiger hollered angrily. Along with the little white tiger's roar, the valley fell into a dead silence. What the fuck? You're only coming now. The little white tiger mumbled and sprinted towards the valley ahead. Thousands of meters away in a thatched house by a stream, a gray-haired elderly was holding onto a fishing rod and fishing by the stream. What the fuck? Grandfather is here. The little white tiger shouted at the white-bearded elderly who was fishing by the stream. Hush, keep quiet. The white-bearded elderly looked at the little white tiger and shook his head, instructing the little white tiger to not make so much noise. The moment he finished speaking, the white-bearded elderly flicked his wrist and lifted the fishing rod immediately, pulling a patterned fish out from the stream. With a face full of smiles, the white-bearded elderly removed the fish from the fishing rod and handed it to the little white tiger. It's been a long time. Meeting gift. What the fuck? Meeting gift? The little white tiger stared at the patterned fish which was still alive and flopping about at its feet. Are you serious? Why? You don't like it? The white-bearded elderly chuckled. This fish is called Julie. It's materialized by the condensation of the heavenly cycle and is a condensation of a certain energy body. The little white tiger was stunned after hearing the white-bearded elderly and immediately swallowed the patterned fish without uttering a word further. What the fuck? Why are you so polite? We are so familiar already. Why did you give me such an expensive present? After consuming the patterned fish, it evidently felt the energy in its body increase extensively, giving it the capital to save its life. The white-bearded elderly did not respond and stood up to store his fishing rod away. What the fuck? This is strange. Are you human or not? The little white tiger sized up the white-bearded elderly curiously. Why did you say that? The white-bearded elderly sat down once again and asked with a smile. I've never seen anyone who can live for as long as you. The little white tiger muttered. Not long after it was born, it was acquainted with this white-bearded elderly. It had lived for thousands of years, yet this white-bearded elderly was still not dead. It does not matter how long one lives. Rather, has what I once told you about come true? The white-bearded elderly looked at the little white tiger meaningfully. Immediately, the little white tiger's expression turned slightly solemn as it replied. Your words indeed came true. That lady. To save your father, your mother, your clan, you can only rely on her. However, she cannot do without your help in death tribulations after death tribulations, the white-bearded elderly said with a smile. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for for being a part of this adventure.